wife and their 6 children. For any of you that have that many children, God bless you. You are doing the Lord's work. I'll tell you what. A lot of fun to be back there, though. Celebrated my son's birthday. Shout out to Connor. Turned 24 over the weekend. That's right. I have a 24-year-old son. My son is 24, and he's such a good kid. Could not be prouder of him. But good weekend. Great to be back. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully you're off to a great start to that work week. And it is almost time. It is almost time for college football. We are in game week for week 0. We have college football this weekend. And then the following weekend, our local teams will kick off as Utah will be at the Rose Bowl to take on the UCLA Bruins. BYU hosts Portland State. Utah State is taking on Utah. Shout out to the Utah State players for earning their numbers. It's been a while since we've had Bronco Mendenhall in State. I forgot how corny this stuff gets with him. Respectfully, the man's a great coach, and everybody who knows Bronco seems to like him and respect him. It's the dumbest thing. It's so cheesy. But congratulations to, I guess I should say, the portion of the Utah State roster who's earned their numbers so far.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Yeah. That's my bad. I forget. Yeah, you got to earn your number. Are they doing what did he have the BYU players wear on the back of their? It was like spirit, tradition, and honor or something.
Yes. Hey, spirit, tradition, and honor.
No, don't spin it.
Those are our 3 staples, I think, of this program. The
afternoon drive here on ESPN 700. We are known for spirit, tradition, and honor.
Yes.
You know what? That's actually not bad. And
I couldn't say that without
here's the
down.
deal.
I'm sorry.
Before the end of the show, I'm going to decide whether or not you've earned that Roan shirt you're wearing.
Oh, no.
You might have to take it off.
I don't know if they're a sponsor anymore.
Not technically, but you and I wear it every day, so kind of they are.
That's fair.
They provide free clothing. That's Porter. He produces the show. My name is Spence Checketts. I host the show. It's good to have you guys with us on this Monday, and we are jam-packed. We have week 3 of the NFL preseason in the rearview mirror. Some of our local players solidifying roster spots. A lot of Utes on the Broncos roster. Saw some action over the weekend. Caleb Lohner had a catch. Karene Reed had a couple of tackles. Jonah Ellis caused some chaos in the backfield. Jackson Dart continues to impress for the New York Giants. He's not going to get that starting job. And a lot of NFL players, a lot of local NFL players trying to make their inroads. Look like Zach Wilson is going to lock in that QB2 spot in Miami. Feels like BYU has a starting quarterback. They're kind of playing it a little coy. A-Rod and Kalani haven't announced officially that Bear Bachmeyer's your starting quarterback in Provo, but it feels like that's kind of the deal. Speaking of Provo, our friends at the Salt Lake Tribune, Kevin Reynolds, with a good piece today about a topic we've discussed quite a bit since NIL became a reality. And I told you 5 years ago this stuff was going to be very beneficial for BYU, and here we are. But they will not say the quiet part out loud. They will not tell the truth. It's disingenuous. It's inauthentic. And quite frankly, it's insulting when we all know the deal. Yet they hide behind this cloak, and Kevin did a good job today. SLTrib.com is where you go. So we'll dig into some of that stuff when it comes to BYU's ability to compete with the highest bidders in college athletics to pay their players to play for their school. And, yes, that's what they're doing. And, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the weirdest thing. I think it's a microcosm of several weird elements down there, but whatever. Kevin did a good job today with that, so we'll get into it. So college football on the program today. We'll get you ready for game day, which is under 2 weeks away now. Ohio State has a starting quarterback as well. A couple of positional battles with the University of Utah. Scrimmage up on the hill over the weekend that we'll get into as well. Get you guys ready for game day for the Utes. RSL, another tough night when it comes to the officials. I am not a soccer expert. We do cover the club on the show, as you guys know, and I always will because they're my friends, and I want them to succeed and do well. But that looked like a handball because the defender raised his arm and touched the ball with his hand. Again, not an expert over here.
Me neither. Looked apparently like what happened to me, but, you know.
Yep. So RSL had a potential penalty kick taken away from them. There was a very violent tackle, at least in the world of soccer at midfield, where a Charlotte player probably should have been sent off. Nonetheless, RSL 2 straight L's now, and they're below the playoff line with only 8 matches to play. The good news is 5 of those matches are at home starting on Saturday, and your boy will be there. I'm heading to the game Saturday night. I have not been to an RSL match since early in the season. So RSL trying to get across the playoff line to try to qualify for the MLS playoffs because, as we've seen, once you qualify for the playoffs, you never know what could happen. Joe Flacco is your starter in Cleveland. Dylan Gabriel with a comment over the weekend. A lot of people are, I think, misconstruing as far as a shot at Shedeur Sanders. So we are inching closer and closer to the NFL. You're probably preparing for some fantasy football drafts. So a lot of football on the show today. While we were gone, the Utah Jazz received their schedule. Do you give a rip? They have one national televised game, and it'll probably be flexed out in January. Home opener October the 22nd against the Clips. New broadcast partners with the NBA means a bevy of new scheduling. I'll call it complications. Not sure we're going to see the inside guys until Christmas, which sucks in a lot of ways. But we'll go over some stuff with the Jazz. Larry Markkinen is absolutely crushing it at Eurobasket, just like he did a few years ago. And if you remember, that was the summer prior to Lowry's first season here, where he had grown-ups playing on the roster with him, and he played well. He made an all-star team. So a little NBA, but mostly football on the show today. Good guest list. Our first guest will be the former athletic director at the University of Utah, good friend of the program, Dr. Chris Hill, live in studio for an entire hour. Excited to have Dr. Hill in today. We'll talk about kind of what's going on behind the scenes this time of year and get his take on the future of Utah football. I want to talk a little college basketball. Last live show we did was last Wednesday up at the Red Zone store on campus. And let me mention, it does not look like the store on campus when I was in school there in the 90s. We called it the bookstore because that's what it was. Brand new facility, new layout, great gear. They're going to have drops every single week prior to Utah football home games to get you guys excited and geared up, ready to go for Utah football. Head up to the campus store, check it out. But ran into Alex Jensen and chatted with Alex for a minute, and he was with Wes Wilcox, who's the general manager of the Utah men's basketball program. So I want to talk to Dr. Hill about what we should expect from Alex year one as the head coach of the Utah men's basketball team. The voice himself, Bill Riley, joins us on a Monday afternoon and talks some Ute camp, some Camp Kyle, some scrimmage, some Utah scrimmage, maybe some positional battles, namely along the defensive line. Who's going to be cornerback number 2 across from Scooby? And then we'll get into some QB2 talk and then how everything's looking, shaping up to the season opener against UCLA at the Rose Bowl coming up in under 2 weeks from now. So Riles will stop by today. And then former RSL general manager Elliot Fall will roll by in studio for a hit. Elliot really, I think, deserves a lot of credit for the team he built up that this current iteration decided to break down for whatever reason. So we'll get with Elliot today. Been wanting to have him on the show for a while. And then we'll go from there. So Dr. Chris Hill, Bill Riley, Elliot Fall, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. Hello, how are you? Thanks for making us a part of your Monday. And him, that guy, Porter Larson, who produces the show. How was your weekend, pal?
It was good. It was good. How was your weekend?
Well, you can't just say it's good. Give me one highlight from your weekend. What did you do that was fun? Give me one thing.
Man, it was, well, I drove a bunch. Unfortunately, that's not a highlight. I kind of got my ass kicked by a large hooved animal. That's somewhat of a highlight. But I did get outside. I did a little central Utah exploring, Sevier Canyon area, Big Rock Candy Mountain area, if you're familiar. That's probably one of the highlights.
Do we swear
hanging out on the river?
Do we swear on the show now? Is that something we do?
I forgot about our.
While I was gone.
Forgot about our tenets.
Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, spirit, tradition, honor.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And then you roll in, you just start dropping asses like there's nothing wrong with it.
I apologize for that.
Just be better, or else you're not going to earn your own shirt.
Okay, I was talking about a mule.
Okay, that's fair.
It kind of,
As my grandma used to say, it's also in the Bible. My grandma, rest in peace, had it I used to love it. She would swear up and down.
But if it's in the Bible
swears.
There you go.
Not the bad swears.
Or if you're in the state of Utah, one I hear very commonly, and my friends that sometimes listen to the show, and I played sports with me back in the day. If you're between the lines, right? If you're between the lines of the court or the field, doesn't count. Doesn't count. Okay, brother.
One of your ex teammates has been texting me quite a bit, DMing me on social media.
Oh, really?
Seems like a nice guy. Just listens to the show. Says he knew you when you were a kid.
Okay.
That's the end of the story.
Some of them are very, very nice guys.
Okay. What about the others?
Most of them. The folk up in Camas, they're my people.
Salt to the earth people.
Yeah.
Up in Camas. All right, a lot to do. Our first guest today live in the studio will be Dr. Chris Hill. But before we get to Dr. Hill, courtesy of our friends at Prize Picks, it is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Preseason NFL football is here. College football is also here, week 0 this week. So don't miss out on any of the action this season on Prize Picks. Here's what you do. You download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game all season long. All right, it is here. It's here. I mean, college football is here. It is the Monday of week 0, which will be highlighted by Iowa State and K-State in Dublin, Ireland. Our buddy Chris Kamrani will be live on site. I'm sure we'll check in with CK next week about his experience. So that's coming up on Saturday. That will be your first game. Boise State, South Florida, Thursday. And then we launch into an entire slate of big-time college football with some really good opening day matchups for week 1. LSU Clemson might be the highlight at Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. A bunch of other good non-con games. And, of course, Big 12 needing to show well in non-con as a lot of eyes on the Big 12 conference this year. Can they get 2 teams in? Notre Dame, Miami will culminate and essentially wrap up the weekend. That's going to be a Sunday game on August the 31st. But, of course, Utah on the road taking on UCLA. That's a 9 o'clock kick time on Fox. Oh, by the way, want to mention that the debut of the Devin Dampier weekly interview on the Sean O'Connell Show will come your way on Thursday. So a lot of you wanting to get to know Devin a little bit better. We are your home of the Utes, and so we will make sure that you guys are able to kind of get a little bit of insight on what makes him tick. Good kid, really nice kid, had a chance to kick the tires with them down at Big 12 Media Day. Of course, a lot going to be asked of him under center as Utah's QB1. Utah remains essentially a touchdown favorite. That line's about 6.5 points against UCLA. So that will be your opener for the Utes, and you can hear the game on our radio station with Bill and Scott and Sly and the gang. A ton of pregame coverage. Porter's going to take care of you there. And then don't forget, during home games this year, starting on September the 6th against Cal Poly, and continuing all season long, come chill out with us at our tailgate. We're right on Guardsman's, right on the corner. It's like the primest location. It's right outside of the big Smith's setup. I guess I should check if Smith's is back with the Utes this year, but that big setup on the corner. Have a lot of fun there. Outlaw Distillery is going to be serving some spirits. We always have great food, and it's a good time. I like to roll through there when I go up there and kind of say hi to my old college buddies who have some tailgate spots up there. So Utah football is here, and I do think, as I continue to talk about, the piece of optimism I continue to kind of latch onto for the Utes is that it doesn't appear to be really a lot of issues. Now, that's what we see as media members. It's what you kind of digest as fans. Obviously, behind the scenes with the coaches and players, I'm sure it's a little bit different. But when your main topics are like, who's going to be the second cornerback for a defense that you never worry about, or who's going to be the other defensive end outside of Logan Fano, when those are the conversations, as opposed to, is the quarterback healthy? Who's your starting quarterback? What does that look like? You got to feel really good as a fan. So I don't fully know what to expect this year when it comes to the landscape of the Big 12 Conference. Friend of the show, Josh Pate, was tuning into Josh's podcast earlier today, and he did his conference picks. And Joel Klatt did his conference picks as well. A couple of the college football voices I like to listen to. And the consensus among the Big 12 is even more confusion than there typically is. Arizona State, prohibitive favorite. You look at Vegas, Utah is right there. There's some other teams, of course. K-State always seems to be in the mix. A lot of people love Texas Tech, Dave Aranda and Baylor getting a lot of love. BYU, it really depends on who you listen to. And it comes down to whether or not you believe that staff can figure out the quarterback spot. They have not announced it officially, but it does look like the Bear Bachmeier kid, the true freshman who spent his spring football at Stanford, is going to be the number 1 quarterback for BYU. McKay Hillstead, who a lot of people just kind of assumed was going to get the job because of his truncated experience up at Utah State where he received 8 starts. Looks like he's going to be the backup, and the Trayson Bourget kid looks like he's the odd man looking out, or the odd man looking in, I should say, on the outside. So that continues to be the question that's percolating with the Cougars, not just who the quarterback is going to be, but what is the quarterback going to look like, because no matter who A-Rod lands on, they will be taking their first snaps for BYU and their first snaps on the Big 12 level. Not necessarily college football for Trayson and McKay, but certainly it'll be Bear Bachmeier's first experience when it comes to college football at that level, or college football at all, because he is a true freshman. A-Rod, during media availability last week, discussed the dynamic and not really caring ultimately about whether or not as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, transfer, incumbent. And A-Rod keeps using the same phrase, the standard is the standard at BYU when it comes to the quarterback position. For me, if all things are equal, go with the kid. If all things are equal, just go with the kid. Might as well start building now. And ultimately, in this era of college football, you just have to go with the guy you think is ready to play right now. But if you can have some sort of assurance, and I will not get on my collectively bargain soapbox today, unionize and negotiate with the powers that be, but if you can get some sort of assurance from Bear that he's going to be here for 2 or 3 years, I just think you go with the kid. Now, what happens these days in college football is you do run the risk of the players you elected not to name starters just to transfer, but they're working on more stringent guidelines in place to make sure that, when it comes to in-season stuff, yeah, you'll always be able to withdraw and figure it out, but you can't officially enter the transfer portal. I mean, Jake Retzlaff, who's now at Tulane, that's not a situation where he entered the portal. It was too late. So Tulane officials couldn't even contact him. They had to go through his reps, even though the Tulane head coach recruited Jake out of high school. So we'll see how it plays out down in Provo. I do think if you're a Ute fan, you should feel very confident that we're not hearing a lot of drama, both front-facing or behind the scenes, as we prepare for UCLA coming up on the 30th, Saturday of next week. And so college football is here, man. It's right around the corner. And I feel like no matter who you listen to, most everybody is on the same page as far as not knowing what to expect. This is a sport, in my opinion, 20 years at this now, I think it's harder to predict and analyze than any other sport on any other level. And I think it's even more so now as a result of roster changeover. I mean, at the very least, you have 35 to 40 new players. At the very most, you have 80 new players up in Logan, like Bronco Mendenhall is breaking in, with only a portion of them earning their numbers so far. Okay, we'll catch a quick break, but coming up live in studio, Dr. Chris Hill, former athletic director for the Utes, always illuminating to bring in Dr. Hill. Bill Riley stops by. Elliot Fall stops by. We have a busy Monday show, and it's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got Riles today. Voice the Utes. He'll stop by. We'll talk some Utah football. Scrimmage over the weekend. It is week 3 of 4 weeks for fall camp for the Utes before they go to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. College basketball right around the corner. Had a chance to catch up with Alex Jensen last week up at the Red Zone store on campus. If you're an old Ute like me, we used to call it the bookstore. It is definitely not just the bookstore anymore. It is a very nice facility that looks a lot different than it did once upon a time when I was causing chaos on campus. I want to tell you about my friends at IFA Country Stores. Like any good coach, it's time to update the game plan for a healthy green lawn. As the hot weather continues this month, make sure you're using IFA Step 3 Summer Lawn Food for healthy turf that stays green in every season. IFA Step 3 Lawn Food, it's the ultimate lawn owner power move at IFA. Speaking of old Utes, I'm not calling him old, but when I was on campus, the athletic director of the University of Utah was Dr. Chris Hill, and he joins me live in studio. Dr. Hill, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. There's probably 2 generations that were there when I was there, but I'm doing well. Can't complain.
Great to see you. Great time of year. So as we approach football and basketball, what are some of the boxes that you wanted checked before the football was kicked off?
Well, I think that, I'm by no means close to it. I live near Kyle occasionally, whatever. But,
Sure.
I kind of like some things I hear.
Okay.
I mean, I'm probably going to try to go to practice in a week or 2 from now just to say hello.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do that often, maybe once a year.
Sure.
But I kind of like what I hear. It doesn't take a genius to say the quarterback's got to do well and not get hurt. I mean, everybody knows that. One of the things I really like hearing is about this offensive line.
Yeah.
And, to me, a good quarterback can become very good with a good line.
For sure.
I mean, they can't change the quarterback's ability, but you got a little bit more time to throw, and this guy seems like a runner. And so, I just kind of take it for granted, and maybe I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But,
we all do.
The
yeah.
running back, I don't, know. So I think when you have that kind of offensive line, what I'm hearing, one guy projected as, top 12 pick.
Spencer,
or
yeah.
something.
Spencer Fano, yeah.
From my chair, similar to yours, and, but I kind of like hearing that stuff, and I think that, Harding's a really good coach on the line. So I think that that'll happen. That'll be good for him.
Yeah, all 5 starters return, and, one of the players we don't even hear about much is Michael Mokafisi, who has 33 starts. Everybody talks about Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu, the 2 tackles, but Michael has 33 starts. Jaron is a captain, and the Tongai kid is returning as well. I mean, all 5 of those starters return. I wonder if you ever had experience when it comes to, like last year was a disappointment. It was a disappointment for all of us that expected something different. It was certainly a disappointment for Kyle himself.
Yeah.
And he spoke about that during Big 12 Media Day. It feels like Utah football is so entrenched now that you don't need to, quote, win anybody back.
Yeah.
But what do you look for after a season like last year that just didn't go the way any of us were expecting?
Well, I just hope they start off well and beat UCLA the first one, because then the next 2, I can say this now as an AD, I don't have to act like they're easy games, but we did schedule some of those for that reason. But I like what I hear. The thing that you don't worry about it, but you think now our expectations are good, and that's really good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like we don't go in with our tail between our legs and we don't say, oh, last year, that's the way it's going to be. I don't think anybody feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people's expectations are, but, I think they're in line to have a very good year again. And the fans, I think, are still interested in coming. And so I'm optimistic about just the whole place they have in the pecking order of the Big 12.
It was interesting to hear Kyle at Big 12 Media Day, and he said this on Sean's show last offseason, but he was more adamant about the fact that his decision to come back was colored in the context of how rough last year was.
Uh-huh.
And I honestly wondered if that was even a factor, because he's one of a handful of coaches in college football whose legacy is cemented at the institution where he's at. There's nothing about last year that changes the 30,000-foot view of what Kyle has done with the program. But knowing him the way you do as the competitor, what are your thoughts on what that must have been like for him, and him really admitting front-facing, like, yeah, it wasn't good enough, and that's one of the reasons I decided to come back?
Kyle's really tough on himself, and he's tough on everybody,
Yeah.
So I would imagine it was grinding pretty hard at him, and especially because he got halfway through the season and kind of going, uh-oh, I don't know how we're going to get where I think we can get.
Mm-hmm.
So it made for and I'm just guessing, but it would make for a long season for me if I kind of knew I had nobody to really come in and make it happen. And you don't want to think about the next year when you're sitting there. So it had to be really, really tough because he's done so well and kind of has control of things. And that's all coaches are control freaks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And things were out of his control. And that's not a pleasant thing for a coach like that.
What are the characteristics that make, your hiring record, and I'm not buttering you up.
Sure.
But your hiring record was very good, both on the football and basketball side and other sports as well. The Red Rocks, obviously. So when it comes to the process of looking for the right person to lead a program of football, basketball, gymnastics, whatever it is, what are those traits?
Well, for me, it's most of the really good coaches we had were very smart, and, people might think you just roll the ball out and play, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
How to build a team, how to get kids to play together, that's important. And for me personally, it was where somebody had the chance to put the pedal to the metal. That was a mark in their career. They knew if they did well at Utah, they'd either could run it out or they can get a bigger job.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the people that were doing well, but they were just ready, and this was their mark. So I think they have to be smart. They have to be around winning too. That that's not obvious, but that is obvious. But I think the qualities are the personal qualities in this day and age. How to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously team, but I think it's also I kept thinking in my mind, and maybe that's because what Chase Peterson told me about when he hired me when I was just a kid, that it was a make or break for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
If Kyle didn't do well, there's no slowing down for a guy like that. He's just after. This is his deal, and he made it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you – let's go back for a little bit. What did you see in Urban?
Well, I knew some things about him.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's other people you talk to, and it's interesting thing when a staff gets fired or moves on and they keep a guy, that says something.
Mm-hmm.
And at Colorado State, they kept him.
Yep.
Why? Because he was the best recruiter. He was this. He was that. When I met him, he was so enthusiastic, was organized as all hell, was a disciplinarian, and he had the guts of a burglar. So
what a line.
I think he could do, and we needed juice.
Yeah.
We needed juice, and he was not afraid of doing that, and he wasn't afraid of anything, and, he was fortunate enough to get Kyle around. But when I looked at him, and I'm not a genius, it's always a crapshoot. I tell people, you hire 10 people. If you're right 7 times, that's a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, go to recruiting, the same thing. Got an 18-year-old guy,
Sure,
you're right
sure.
7 out of 10. That's crazy. But he had those qualities, so organized, so enthusiastic, very bright, and this was really his mark. I told him when we hired him, I got it. We'll try to hold on to you, but you hit the greatest of greats. We'll give you a hug and kiss you goodbye, and know we'll be better.
Mm-hmm.
So, all those things added up. I enjoyed him personally. I think we got the best of Urban.
What was it like? And I have a little bit of experience with this through the prism of my father's career. The best example was luring Pat Riley away from NBC to coach the Knicks. And there were a lot of questions about whether or not Pat had the juice left that he had in L.A., and it became really apparent very quickly that he did. And it's funny, as you're describing Urban Meyer, Pat Riley is coming to my mind.
Sure.
Organized, guts of a burglar, which is a great line. Didn't take anything from anybody, knew exactly what he wanted, and knew how to communicate that with his players. What was it like to watch your decision to hire Urban? Because I say this all the time. Coach Mack deserves credit for laying the foundation. Urban built the mansion, and then Kyle expanded it, right?
Yeah.
So sitting back and watching that 2-year period in Utah football that Dr. Hill changed the landscape of everything around here, what was it like to sit back and watch your decision manifest itself the way it did?
Oh, it was great. I got off the hook a lot quicker. When you let somebody go and you hire somebody, they're 2 different decisions.
For sure.
But they're inextricably linked.
Mm-hmm.
So if the new guy comes in and wins right away, all of a sudden you're a smart guy.
Yeah.
If it takes 2 or 3 years, you're getting beat up for 2 or 3 years. So he got me off the hook pretty quick, and you enjoyed it. Our favorite game, which we thought was a turning point, we both agreed upon this independently, was his first year when they played Cal.
Okay.
Third game of the year, packed house. We go down the field perfectly. Alex scores, and the place goes crazy, and Urban's out in the crowd after that, and the town, and whipping people up, and we win the league, and then it's like nirvana.
How much off-field credit does Urban get for the creation of? Because the must wasn't a thing when I was in school. The student section was barely a thing when I was in school, and so every time I'm up there for a home game, I take none of it for granted. I turn around, I look at the must, I'm like, this is wild to me still.
Yeah.
I haven't been in school, 25, 26 years now. It's just everything is different, and it felt like there was the on-field tangible stuff that we all saw, the winning. Alex, the number one pick in the NFL draft. We all could see that. But as far as the endeavors off the field to create the culture that still permeates today, how much credit does Urban get for that?
Well, he gets a lot. He's tireless, tireless. And we all know this, that, we won in a big way. We were exciting, but he was fired up all the time. I knew that I'd win a discussion with him if I just was fired up about whatever he was doing. Oh, Chris, we got to do it. Yeah. And then we may not have done it, but still, so I think he deserves a lot of credit. A lot of people, which rightfully so, worked hard at getting the must go, but let's be honest, he got it on fire. And then it's continued. But he the winning, he won St. Urban as time goes on, but, when he was here, it happened.
Yeah, it did.
And you can't deny it.
And Frank Layden, who passed recently at the age of 93, had this great saying. He said, winning cures a myriad of sins.
Yes, it does.
Frank always used to say that. So winning is the secret sauce. Speaking of which, while we're in this space, I would imagine you had several interactions with Frank over the years, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad, we were on our trip, and Frank and I, two wise guy, East Coast guys, Catholics, and he and I would get together early on, about once a month at one of the coffee shops right near the university, and just solve all the world's problems. He would kind of do that with me and whatever. Yeah. And as time went on, it was kind of fun for me to have him after he retired and getting older. We'd still do the same thing. And I got everybody was a mentor by Frank.
Sure.
There's like, if I lined up and said he was my mentor, they'd say,
Me?
here's 3,700 guys that he was a mentor. It gives me chills thinking about him. But, he had every one of his faculties. But people I wish understood that are, younger, what he did for the city, what he made it good. He taught me one of the best things ever. He said it takes a lot less energy to be good to people than to be mean. And I never forgot that. And he taught me a lot of things. But, I'm glad you asked me, because I wasn't here when it all happened. I mean, I spent time visiting the hospital and everything.
Sure.
It was fun when we used to meet with those things. And Barbara was really good with Kathy, and we went out to dinner once in a while.
That's great.
I love the coffee session. And of course, I'd be there, and they go, "There's Frank Layden." I'm like going, "Hey, what about me? I'm somebody too." Nah, that was Frank Layden. I was just his boy carrying his coffee around. So I'm glad you bring it up. Who doesn't like Frank? Find somebody.
Yeah. No, it's he was almost like a second father. So I did an entire show dedicated to him. We had Coach Mack hop on.
Yeah.
Coach Mack was actually in Hawaii doing a football camp, and Richard Smith had texted him saying, Spence is doing a show about Frank today, and Mack said, when can I hop on?
Yeah.
And when Mack says, can I hop on? You say yes, obviously. So he hopped on, and obviously Frank's spirit will continue to permeate throughout the marketplace. And it is interesting to consider both of you growing up back east in the tri-state area and landing here and making it home.
Yeah. It was Frank's home. And, he had chances of going, the same with me. And people would say, well, you're so loyal. I said, well, it's a nice place to be. I got good people who can win. I guess I'm loyal, but not really. It was a good job. I got paid.
Right.
That was it, and I just happened to like living here. It was like Frank was was so interesting that way for me, because I thought he validated, here's a guy from the New York, and he loved it here. And we had the accents. I tease him that he still kept his accent. I said,
for sure.
I said, who are you talking about, man? You have a cup of coffee? I could do that too, But anyway, but he was great. I'm so glad you mentioned it. Not everybody loves Frank.
For sure, yeah.
It's just like I was going to write a letter to the editor. I said, finally, we have some nonpartisan things in the state.
Yeah,
that we got one guy that, whatever. Right. So anyway, thank you.
For sure, yeah. The East Coast came out on him when he was fired up.
Yeah.
If there's something that got under his skin, then he went full like Brooklyn, which I always enjoyed. Speaking of letter to the editor, the Tribune today, with an interesting piece about the NIL and economic endeavors of Brigham Young to keep up with the other football programs, basketball programs across the landscape of college athletics. I've never fully understood why there's this clandestine cloak that they use to cover their NIL endeavors. Like, we have the reports. We know what you're paying these players. You're paying them an exorbitant amount of money. Kevin Young is one of the highest paid coaches in the Big 12. Kalani got a new extension. I don't understand why the messaging isn't more authentic and honest about what they're doing, because there's nothing wrong with what they're doing.
Oh, no. Have I talked to you since I played golf with Tom Homo?
You have not.
Oh, okay.
I'd
so
love to hear
I texted
that,
him after, because a lot of people don't know. We used to sit together at meetings, and we had so much more in common than people would think.
Sure.
I had my rough spots. But so I said, I'm going to take you out to golf when you want to. And this was just when the thing happened with their quarterback. And then we talked about a lot of that stuff. And he says, now, I got somebody that wants to give X million dollars, and the people that, uncomfortable, in the Board of Trustees, the LDS Church. And he's saying, so you want to take this guy that's worth billions and contributing 10% here, and I'm going to tell him no?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what do you do? If people have that passion, you do it. And what the numbers are, I don't pay attention to it, but I know they're big. But, there's no shame. Just do it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it does feel like there's a messaging issue when it comes to the following, which is we all understand that the church is not writing these checks. These are alumni.
Right.
These are boosters. But even with that caveat, even with that disclaimer, there appears to be a big portion of the culture and the fan base that's really uncomfortable. And maybe it's just steeped in the fact that we're all used to this being amateur, right, in college athletics, and this is new for all of us. But I just don't understand why the refusal to say the thing out loud seems to exist down there, where it's like, no, they want the BYU experience. Guess what? A.J. DeBonta did not want the BYU experience. He took $5 million, okay?
I can agree with you now. I couldn't like 10 years ago, but I can agree with you now. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't treat him well. He's not going to have a great time.
Sure.
Have friends. None of that.
And Kevin's a good coach, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be fine. But, you wonder where a little bit is, if we don't spend quite much money as the other school, we're a little more pure, or we're, I don't know. I'm guessing. But, people want to be they don't want to be Texas and Alabama, but they want to be Texas and Alabama.
Right.
So it's kind of like you can't have it both ways. And, I just think they just got to admit it, go on and do what they can do.
Do you think this new era of college athletics would have been something that would have juiced you up if you were in that seat, or something that would have brought tremendous challenges, or maybe a bit of both?
A bit of both. I mean, when you're in the chair, you do whatever you have to do legally to win. I mean, but I got in a while ago, a long time ago, and, you got to feel a little bit more like you were close to the school and close to the players. And, I was telling somebody the other day, they're worried about it, especially in basketball, that, it's not the NBA, so you don't go to see the greatest players ever, but you fall in love with a freshman, and, he's coming back next year, and, his mom sits over there, and, what would our experience be without Andre for 4 years, falling in love with him? And you buy season tickets, and he's here, and he's that. Now, I understand intellectually why it's all happened, but if you ask me, I said that wouldn't have been much fun, because you really can't get attached to people. I got to know, Alex's mom and dad, got to know them. I mean, he passed, but we knew them, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
So there was a combination of fun and whatever came down the pipe, and you had to adjust. So I maybe wouldn't have been as enthusiastic about it by any means, but you just would have had to.
Yeah.
But and there's people that are like 30 years old in the business, and they don't see anything else. So they're in the business for that. So God bless them too. But it was just losing players that you like, and that is difficult, but you can't. I mean, if it's money, it's money.
Well, and, I hate to beat this over the head. I'm looking something up real quick. I just, because to your point about familiarity with players, it's one of the things that has always been in the pros. It's kind of the same deal, where these days there's more player movement in the NBA that there used to be, and certainly we got spoiled with John and Carl and Frank and Jerry.
Sure.
But one of the nice things about college athletics is getting to know these young people that play at the school. And if they're transferring every year, it makes it hard to build a program. Like if I'm a college coach these days, and if I don't have Texas Tech money or T. Boone Pickens or whatever it is, I'm not even sure I'd want to stay in the endeavor because you can't even keep up. But do you think at least a little bit, and I'm sure my listeners are so sick of this. I said this years ago, like, okay, if this is where we're going, we need to lean into it.
Yes.
And we need to allow these players to unionize and collectively bargain, which I know brings a myriad of challenges. But if we can get some sort of agreement, and in this area, I'm mostly talking about football. I think there's space for basketball, but football, of course, drives the whole thing. Because if you can, and look, there are so many powerful lawyers that would love to take this endeavor on. The best business, if you're an attorney right now, is being on the other side of the NCAA because you win everything, right?
There's a name there, a lawyer, and I wish I could bring back his name, but he's been making money for 15, 20 years on this whole deal.
Sure. Whenever I hear people say, well, they wouldn't be able to figure it out, I say, yeah, they would. These lawyers would step up to the plate and line up for this opportunity because if you can collectively bargain and come up with stipulations and guidelines, players sign contracts and you say, okay, you're here for 2 to 3 years, right?
Sure.
And that at least eliminates the whole nefarious, I'm not playing or I don't like my coach. So and you can, if you're an NFL guy and you get a feedback in the offseason from the pros that you're a first round scout, okay, exercise your 3rd year option, go to the league.
Yeah.
But as long as you're in college, you're here.
Well, yeah. And for me, one of the things that frustrates me most about, universities moving very slow, and athletics is an emergency business. Your quarterback has a knee problem. I'm sorry, you're going to get the MRI this afternoon, and Joey G. Bops is not going to be able to get in right away.
Right.
And so it's an emergency business. It's something that happens fast. But I get tired of, we all know where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right? They're employees now.
Yeah.
Okay? Now they meet. You and I can argue about it. They need to be students. And because I've seen too many, and I know everybody in the radio now is rolling their eyes, but I've seen too many students and players that were great players, even those who went in the NBA. I mean, NFL, they didn't have that money when they left, or it's gone. Everybody thinks $1 million is like the end of your world, and you can live till 75 with that. No. As soon as you don't work, it's out the window.
Yep.
But for me, I just wish they'd say they're student workers or football workers and collective bargaining. That's where we need to be. We all know that, and they need contracts. If they have contracts, then they have security too. If you get a contract and you come in and, you're really not what the coach expected, they got to pay you or trade you.
Yeah.
And so I think there's benefits up all the way around. And, I don't know enough about the NFL money with the players, but I'm sure they do a lot of commercials. I see them, but they seem legit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't get why we can't at least understand where we are and then figure out how to get there. Not put roadblocks in the way before do we all agree this? Yes, we agree this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what we agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can start doing things.
Yeah.
But don't have these, they can't do this because of this. And no, if we all agree this is where we need to be, put that in a bank and try to get there.
Yeah.
Not I was going to say no, not mess around and do it.
Yeah.
Just get it done. But universities move very slowly. And, university presidents, I don't want to pick on it, but, you got a, chemistry professor, being a president has, billions of budget and they don't have experience in athletics, which is just, athletics is a weird part of the university.
Do you feel like, and we'll catch a break, because I do want to talk a little basketball coming up on the other side. I've always sensed, and you obviously have firsthand experience, I don't know if jealousy is the right term. There's just friction. I'll use the term friction between academia and athletics at institutions.
Yeah, there's
Did you run into that?
Yeah, there's 3 types. There's the ones that really, really like you, and sometimes that's not healthy in a way. Then there's the ones in between that accept it, understand it, and don't whine about it. And then there's a group that just can't stand you.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, well, Cal Berkeley's is 75% can't stand you. But we had a kind of, that's how it is. And, there are people that just don't like it. And, they talk about the academic stuff and all this. And I say to them, well, wait a minute. Don't call the office and say this player cheated. Just flunk them like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that, And so it gets kind of to the point where you understand where one group is. You're not going to change it. And you just have to kind of gut it up and get through that. The ones in the middle are the ones that can hold you accountable.
Yeah.
They're the ones that care enough to hold you accountable. Understand when we got into Pac-12 what it meant to their pool of applicants they could have for professor jobs and all that. And the ones on the other end were the ones that scared me a little bit too, because I'm thinking, they're going to give these players favors, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, so that's my experience.
Yeah.
It's real.
And to your point, there are several layers. Certainly, with a public institution like the University of Utah, BYU operates a little bit differently because they're privately owned. I just think the issues that everybody brings up, I think it's a smokescreen and a distraction from where we need to land to make sure that these sports continue to be the types of products that we want.
Yeah. I think we just got to accept where it's going, and get there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can do.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, and, and we do have to take a look at how we're spending our money and all that stuff, and we could be smarter.
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to, Greg Marsden and I used to talk about it. Now you can have 20 people on a gymnastics team. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have, 8 spoiled kids that are going to be, mom and dad are going to be yelling at the coach like crazy.
Yeah.
So in football, do they really need 105 people?
Yeah.
When 53 play a game, that's the average.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to be joined by Bill Riley today. The voice of the Utes will stop by. Elliot Fall later on, but we got one more segment with Dr. Hill. Do a little more football, but I do want to talk basketball as Alex Jensen is about to embark on his first foray into Big 12 play. So Dr. Hill in studio for one more big segment on a Monday Drive coming up on ESPN 700. Always a pleasure to have one of my favorite guests live in studio. That is Dr. Chris Hill. It is a mediocre pleasure to have Bill Riley on the show. Coming up at 3:30 today. Kidding, Riles. We love you, bud. Elliott Fall rolls by later on. Week 3 of the NFL preseason in the books. We are less than 2 weeks away for kickoff for the University of Utah. Week 0 this week, including a game in Dublin. So that should be fun. Dr. Hill, Alex Jensen's first year as head coach of the Utah men's basketball program. I'm a big Al guy. Have been for years. Got to know him really well when he was with the Jazz when I was over there. He was Quinn's lead assistant. I always thought he would be an NBA head coach. I don't know how much of his decision to take the Utah job was colored in the calculation he did and maybe came to the conclusion, like, if I was going to be an NBA coach, I would have had an offer by now. First time around when Larry was fired, Larry Kraskowiak, who was always good to me and I really liked as well. I thought they'd land on him, and they landed on Craig, who's a really nice guy and a really good coach. Hopefully he lands on his feet somewhere else. But you know Al well. I continue just to temper expectations because this conference is such a bear. Yeah. And I think the Utah Athletic Department has some work to do to keep up with the Joneses to give Al the support he needs. But what are you expecting year one for Al?
I expect that he'll have some good players because he was very strategic about how he was recruiting guys. And when I was I told you off air, when I had lunch with him, and I was on my bike and he said, "Let's go eat." And some of the guys were coming in, and I liked them, looking at them. I said, "Hey, these are," and I really appreciate him keeping the Dawes kid. I thought he was the player, So, I don't know what kind of players they have. It's so hard with guys like we had at Utah, like Rick and Kyle and Urban and, all those coaches could coach them. And Alex can coach him. Yeah. Now he's got to keep him, as we talked 15, 20 minutes ago. But I'm a little blind with Alex, I told him when I saw him, I said, the only thing you're missing is most coaches are rugged on the administration or on a lot of people, and you're not nasty enough. Yeah. So you got to find somebody that's going to push him, because you got to push him. That's just natural tension between coaches and administration. Yeah. So, but he just laughed, and I said, no, but he's a long story short, I just can't really see straight because I like him so much, and I think he's got all the qualities, and we called him St. Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because the coaching pedigree is there. He was a G League Coach of the Year. I watched him. I'm telling you, and Dennis Lindsay, the Utah Jazz general manager, that pieced together the team that Alex and Quinn coached. When Rudy Gobert was at the NBA Draft Combine, Dennis on my show said he was treated like a circus clown. No one knew what to do with him. And Rudy's rookie year, it looked awful. I mean, I didn't think he had a chance. Spent a lot of time in the G League. I had a front row seat watching Alex coach him up. And look, the bulk of the credit always goes to the player. Yeah. But the work Alex did with Rudy, and then later on, Walker Kessler's rookie year, where he became second in Rookie of the Year voting, Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Young down at BYU was a coach with the Suns, and so his whole thing is like, I coached Devin Booker and Chris Paul and Kevin Durant. Alex has that same pedigree, but to your point, most of the successful coaches, at least I know of, have a little bit of, for lack of a better term, jerk in them. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just kind of do. I don't know. I don't know if I would describe Kyle as a jerk, but he has bite. He has edge.
Yeah, I would say they got an edge.
Yes.
And
yes.
One of our mentors said every coach breaks your heart sometimes. So
for sure.
Understand that.
For sure. And you had the ultimate jerk in Rick, who we all love, but at the same time, some complications seem to rise from time to time.
Yeah, it was, but it was when I add it all up.
For sure.
Yeah, you add it all up and you get someplace. But, I you know more about his teaching with the pros than I. You were there, you watched. I don't profess to do that. Mm-hmm. I have talked to some friends of people who knew that and everything. So I can't guarantee he did that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one that helped those guys with the fundamentals, to get this, to get that, because he's very measured. He's let's be honest, he was Rick's favorite guy. Yeah. And Alex is not dumb, except when he came back from his mission and Rick said, "Oh my gosh, he's pudgy right now." I think that's a made-up story, but
you think so?
You'll have to ask Alex that.
Well, it's really interesting. The Rick thing has always fascinated me because for about 6 years, I did Jazz pre-half and post-game with Britton. Britton Johnson was
Oh,
my
yeah,
co-host.
Yeah.
And whether you talk to Britt or any of the players that were on those teams with Rick, they all had the same thing with Alex, which was he was the only one that Rick seemed to like genuinely like. Like we were all, he and Andre.
Yeah.
Andre and
Yeah,
Al were
yeah.
like the two guys. They were two of Rick's favorites. And look, I love my guy Britt, but at times he probably didn't do himself any favors because he's a little bit of a kid at heart, which I love about him.
Yeah.
But what does that say to you that Rick seemed to really like and respect Alex as just a person, not one of his players? I mean, he went on and coached with him at St. Louis.
Yeah. It's. I think Britt's right. What a good guy he is, by the way, and his brother Jeff.
The best.
And his
love
parents,
that family.
I know
love
his
that
dad
family.
was ill, but I really liked them a lot. They were fabulous, and so whatever you say hello to him when you see me.
I will.
But Rick was rugged. He was an equal opportunity rugged guy, except for those two.
Yeah.
So it was what he was. But he had them define it what their job was, and sometimes people didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Alex could do the rebound, could shoot, could do that. I remember I watched Rick practice one time, and I won't remember that guy's name, but he was one of our scorers early on in the game. Early on when I was there, and I sat at practice, and all of a sudden our best shooter gives up a shot. Well, Rick goes off.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about role play. You are the most selfish freaking guy on the team.
Shoot the ball, man.
You're terrible.
Yeah.
That's what you think you're here to play defense and rebound? And then he talks about this guy set the screen. This guy did the work. And all the kids there are getting their role. And I'm convinced to this day he was one of the best. Nobody could do it his way. But he defined their role. Some guys that didn't like it.
Yeah.
But they knew if they're going to play, because that was his other great answer when the NCAA tournament. They said, hey, how come your team's so disciplined? The bench.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his answer.
Yeah.
Best one he's ever given.
Yeah.
Plus, it was short, so I didn't have to worry about him going on and saying something would drive me crazy. Anyway, that's what we got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you? I can't believe I'm going to ask you this question because I'm quite sure the answer is emphatically no. Do you see any of Rick and Al, like the way they approach the game, the way they look at the game? Obviously, personalities, they could not be more different. They could not be more polar opposites. Is there anything about Rick that reminds you of Al? Or anything about Al that reminds you of Rick is what I should say.
Well, it'd be hard. I think the approach to the game in terms of a different personality, but, they have the same values in putting a team together.
Sure.
I mean, the guys that went to pro said the best coach they had was Rick. I mean, even though they had some scars on them. But, I can't imagine Al. No, they're not alike at all. No.
I'm chuckling.
I'm trying to answer a question.
Yeah.
Try to put something together about similarity. But, the way they'll teach the game will be similar.
So I'm pulling up the Big 12 here, and last year the SEC was the best basketball conference. All we have here is prognostications, and this year it will either be the SEC or the Big 12. So I referenced the article that the Trib did on BYU earlier. The average Big 12 roster is projected to have cost about $12 to $13 million this year. BYU's projection is over 15. That puts them on par with Kansas when it comes to the Big 12 landscape. So until Alex gets that kind of financial commitment, I think it's going to be tough to expect much right out of the gates. What does, in your opinion, what does success look like for Al year one of the Big 12?
I think finishing in the top half of the league
would be
really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. I mean, what we think of is that, there's going to be some schools that are $10, $12 million, but that's not the whole league.
Yeah.
And you can be fourth or fifth in that league and be seated very high in the NCAA tournament.
If he's top five, that's a grand slam.
Yeah, so maybe in a couple years from now that might happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always think that, they have some schools in the league that don't have that same support, as the top guys there. So, he's going to have to battle them. But, I'm hoping that if we can get somewhat in the middle of the league this year, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, a top five finish year one for Al in the Big 12
that'd
would be
ridiculous.
amazing.
That'd be crazy.
And it's hard for me to analyze because I'm not. There are several people that do my job that will pull up the Utah roster and be like, yeah, I watched this guy at Southern. No, you didn't. Stop lying. I don't know enough about these players. You're right about Keanu, especially after Craig was let go, the final 10 games of the season.
Wow.
When Coach Eilert started Keanu, I think he had 8 double-doubles in the final 12 games. I mean, the kid's an
not
athlete.
easy, but not just 10 and 10.
Right.
Yeah.
and athletic,
Yeah.
because this is a different conference. Like, you need athletes. Kansas has this Darren Peterson kid that might be the number one pick in the draft next year if it's not AJ. So
I tell you what, it just made me. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking of something that when Al talked about, he wanted to model some of his programming against Houston, and that Houston is long and defensive, and that reminds me of Rick.
And nasty.
And they have to be that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to your question about the BYU player, I think.
So, BYU has AJ, and then Kansas has Darren Peterson, and then there's the Boozer kid who's going to be at Duke. Those are the three players that everybody's talking about, the number one overall pick. But do you think Al's getting the support that he needs in order to build the roster to stay competitive?
He's not getting the support you mean financially, because
right.
There's billionaires at BYU.
Yeah.
And so I think people are digging as hard as they can,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. But, I'm not close of it, and I don't mean to defer to anybody else.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know what their budget is. I don't know how much money they have, and that would be totally arrogant for me to make something up and act like I do.
Yeah, no, I understand. It just leads to the larger question that we continue to debate on the show, because the information I've received is that BYU has at least, and this is about a year old. This information's a little bit dated. But last year I was told BYU has 9 seven-figure donors and Utah has 2.
Yeah.
So your connections in the community, does it feel like there's – so the way I've phrased it, Dr. Hill, is last year Utah football had the pressure of being the team that everybody thought was going to win the conference.
Sure.
I feel like the pressure this year is steeped in a community that is wondering whether or not Utah athletics has evolved and can keep up with the new reality of the sport. And a lot of that is deep pockets. Does it feel like in our community up here in Salt Lake, people have confidence that there's enough money flowing through the university athletic department like there is about 40 miles down south?
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the challenges I always tell, nobody really followed it much, is that, first of all, we have a medical center. So you can have $100 million to cancer research or $100 million to basketball.
Fair enough.
So we have that.
Yeah.
There are 3 schools in the state that are the top divisions. In the West, I don't know who else has that but California. Mm-hmm. There's Colorado State, Arizona State. Here we got 3.
Yeah, it's true.
So the money gets thin, and not to make light, a lot of people give a percentage of their money away.
Yep.
And we used to tease that when we played our schedule, we got our fans given both to Air Force and to BYU. So part of it is I think there's some challenges inherent in Utah with where do you put your money?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see us. I mean, I'm not us anymore. But there's just a lot of money, from what I understand, at Silicon Slopes. And when you divide, I was a math guy. When you divide the billion, if every inch were a mile, if you're a millionaire, you can go to Holiday. If you're a billionaire, you can go to Seattle. Okay, how's that?
Puts it in perspective there.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. So, I mean, it's hard when somebody can just do that and they can still give to their other causes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You were the steward over a program. You resided over a program that for a number of different years had elite football and elite basketball.
Yeah.
And, there's this conversation that's taken place because I cannot believe it, and truly this is steeped in my own experience, and we're all, we're all in our own echo chamber. We all kind of approach this from our own prism. And the fact that as a student at Utah in the 90s, that I say into this microphone, as of this year, it has been 10 years since we've made the NCAA tournament as a basketball program. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
And so the conversation's kind of been like, well, what's it like to strike that balance to make sure your football program and your basketball program are receiving the support they need in order to both be elite? Because schools across the country do it. I think BYU's on the precipice. Bama is there. I mean, Bama's basketball program is very good, and I could keep going. Florida won a national championship. They're a top 15 football team this year. What are the challenges of striking that balance to make sure that you have football and basketball top shelf?
Yeah, I don't think they're impossible by any means. I mean, we were fortunate enough to have that experience on several occasions, And with football, it's well, both sports are really money. But if you in basketball, that head coach coaches a lot and doesn't have as many people around. And in football, once you establish it, it feels like it's harder to fall apart. Where basketball, it's difficult to build that kind of tradition.
Yeah.
And to have a long-standing coaches, that helps. You look at that and you see who's been at school X for a long time, and that really helps. But it's, I don't understand why it's so hard. Because your community is the same one, and maybe now people are more interested because of the visibility of football and how big it is and TV and all that. That maybe people are inclined to spend more money on football, which they do, and that's the way it's always going to be. But it's hard. But if you get good coaches, I'm still naive enough to think you can get in a tournament, win some games, do some damage. Now, you might not be winning championships, but, once you get in the NCAA tournament, you can win games, as you all know.
Yeah.
And when you talk to the number one draft choices this year, the guy Cooper Flag, right?
Cooper Flag.
Yeah, he brought him to the promised land. But how many guys have brought their team to Rutgers, my alma mater? Those two guys didn't bring them to the promised land.
Not even close.
And they had two of them.
Not even close.
So how many guys have brought them to the promised land?
Yeah.
And you look at the number one draft choices, and you can go through them when you get a chance. You'll say, oh, they lost in 16. Oh, the guy at LSU didn't make the NCAA tournament. So that may be naive, but when you only have them for 5 or 6 months, you got to hope they're what you thought they were, and the guys around them got to do that, and they're going to be players, not like this AJ, because I understand he's really a solid guy.
He's a good kid and a really good player.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. So he'll fit in, like I said earlier today, he'll fit in great in school. But there are guys that want to be that way, and I don't know what the Rutgers guy were like, but maybe they were like just watching out for their own.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
one
so
of them's
sure.
going to play for the Jazz.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I want to set the screen for this other guy to get up, and I can take it one-on-one. So, you're going to have some of these promised land guys that don't bring them there.
It might not be mutually exclusive, but did the evolution of the football program, Coach Mack, Urban, obviously Kyle, with the way the football program kind of shot to the moon, is there anything there as far as the basketball program going the other way? Are they related at all?
No, it was funny though, and I'm glad Rick couldn't. I'm not glad he's gone, but when we were hot in football, in basketball those years, we siphoned the money off the football. If you look at we didn't have a lot of facilities in basketball that were different and everything, but that was my deep dark secret with him. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And I think if we can, do well, and but everywhere I go, people want so bad for that guy to win.
For sure.
I sound
meaning
like
Alex, right?
Champion.
Meaning Alex, yeah.
Maybe not. I don't want to seem like I'm in love with Alex, but I just really got optimistic.
Yeah.
That maybe he can build it a little bit and get there. But again, everybody thinks he's going to stay forever. Well, he's late 40s, right? You know that. And, they better take care of him. He does well. And they better start supporting him. And I think there are people that are. I've talked to some people that say, hey, we got to make sure, we come back, and we talked off air that, with John Huntsman Sr. left, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Left. And he passed away because he had a lot of juice, and he encouraged others to help. So I'm hoping they can have some real champions.
I agree with you. And what's not to like about Al? Al's it's like we were talking about Frank Layden earlier. If you don't like Alex Jensen, it's a you problem.
Yeah, if you walk around the state and walk around for days and days and days, if you find somebody that doesn't like Frank or Alex, let me know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I'll call you in a month and you'll let me know.
How's the golf game?
I've earned my handicap.
Okay.
It's not good.
All right.
I win a lot of my handicap. No. No, it's I've got the shortest backswing in America.
That's good, though.
I don't practice.
That's not good, Dr.
I don't want to take a lesson. I'm sick of being coached and all that, so I just go out and play. So short backswing, and one day it's the drive works, and the next day you stub it.
Yeah, well, I practice a lot. I like lessons, and that's the same with me.
See, when you practice, I read something the other day, you don't do it right.
Oh.
You get on it. What do? You get there and hit your wedge 20 in a row.
Uh-huh.
Well, on a golf course, how many times do you do that?
That's fair.
So the person said, put your driver there.
Okay.
Put your wedge.
Okay.
Put your 8-iron and your sandwich. Hit a drive. Then go hit your 8-iron.
Oh.
Then go hit your 1-iron.
I'm firing my
and
coach.
See if you got 4 in a row.
I like it.
On different clubs.
Are you interested in giving me lessons? You want to coach me at all?
I don't want to be around a lesson.
Okay,
I don't
fair
want to
enough.
coach. I just want to play and hang out.
Well, look, it's always great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for the time. Okay, we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, we got it, buddy.
Dr. Chris Hill, former athletic director at the University of Utah, brought to you today by our friends at Game Day Men's Health. All right, so here's the deal. Over the past couple of years, I've utilized testosterone therapy. I've lost about 25 pounds. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm not just saying that. And Game Day Men's Health, they'll hook you up. They're doing free consultations. They get your blood work dialed in. You go in there, free consultation. They'll take your blood. They'll look at your levels. They'll talk to you about testosterone therapy. They'll talk to you about, they've got the same weight loss stuff everyone does, semaglutide. Also, peptide therapies have made a massive difference. My skin looks better. My hair looks better. You can attack that belly fat from all angles. So just go in there for the free consultation. I can promise you that if you're a man in your 30s and your 40s and you feel like you're slowing down, this is the magic potion. They call it biohacking. That's kind of the new term. But do yourself a favor and take advantage of their free consultation. I went in there last week and took a tour. Really good people. It's a really good facility. And if you mention you heard that on my show, outside of the free consultation, they're giving you 50% off your first year membership. So I'm talking about testosterone therapy, talking about peptides. I'm talking about weight loss ability as well. Get your blood work dialed in. That's the number one thing. Don't just go to some place where they're just going to say this will help. They're going to cater the program to you, and it's free. That's number one. And then 50% off your membership if you tell them that you heard it on my show. So check them out at Game Day Men's Health in Utah. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They got a bunch of locations, namely Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Cottonwood Heights, and South Ogden. So I'm telling you, give it a try. This is not some paid testimonial. I'm telling you what it's done for me. It can do it. They can do it for you at Game Day Men's Health. All right, we'll catch a break. Riles joins us coming up next. Voice of the Utes on ESPN 700. Thank you.
Risk in the backfield with Montgomery. 3 receivers on the right-hand side. Utah showing some pressure. Now they back away from it. Now they bring a safety up. 4-man rush. Risk looking, surveying, throwing down the field, and it's intercepted at the 40, at the 50, at the 40, at the 30. A convoy to the end zone and a touchdown. It's Zamiah Vaughn with a pick 6 in his final game as a Ute.
Zamiah Vaughn was on the field for the Vikings this weekend, trying to make the roster as an undrafted free agent. The man behind that magical call joins us now, the voice himself, a talent I discovered long ago and have mentored to this stage in his career, Bill Riley. Hello, Riles. How are you?
It's the greatest MC in ESPN 700 VIP lunch in history. How are you, Spence?
Oh, thank you, sir, because that, I think, includes 2 people, and that would be me and you. Is that right?
It does.
Well, it was great to see you last week. Thanks for stopping by. It's always fun to catch up with you, and it was great to see Coach Mack. Hall of Famer Coach Mack. Yeah, well-deserved. Excited to watch that this year.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see him and Roy Jefferson, a couple of Utah legends, go up on the Ring of Honor with Alex Smith in that game against Cal Poly on the 6th.
Was I considered for the Ring of Honor this year? Or did my name come up?
I think that you were in the running for the Sigma Chi Ring of Honor, but you were not accepted this year. I think next year's your final year on the ballot, so you better hope that the Veterans Committee likes you.
Sadly, I don't think I'll ever be named a significant SIG, despite my great success and leadership in that house. But I'll move on from that, Bill. Here's my first question. Most intriguing positional battle less than 2 weeks away from kick?
Most intriguing positional battle. I will say the corner spot opposite that of Scooby Davis. I know that Kyle Whittingham said that Blake Cotton had a good camp and had kind of maybe taken a little bit of the lead, but I'm gonna see if that holds up over the next 12 days before the UCLA game, because I think Cotton, Saunders, and Caldwell have all had really good fall camps. So I would say that's one battle. I think the receivers, they kind of know who their top 6 or 7 guys are. In what order those guys fall out, Spence, I think remains to be seen. But I think they know who that group is. But for me, because it is a starting position, it's a corner that's a starter, that's probably the one I've got my eye on.
Any thoughts on who the number 1 wide receiver is, or maybe 1 or 2? I know you said we've got to wait and see how it plays out, but do you have a best guess as far as what that looks like right now?
When I asked Kyle Whittingham about guys on Saturday at FanFest, the first 2 receivers he mentioned were Tobias Merriweather and Larry Simmons. So I don't know if that in his mind means those are 1 and 2. But I can tell you those guys have both had very good fall camps, especially considering, they weren't really part of everything in the spring since they were late arrivals. So I think Zipper, who's been here, has had some moments. I think Ryan Davis has had some moments too. But based on the comments I got from Kyle Whittingham at FanFest, kind of sounds like Merriweather and Simmons have had really good falls. So we'll find out.
I'm kind of conflicted because I do think a bell cow running back indicates you really love the guy that you have, but it does also behoove any program to have more than one back that you trust, and you need depth at every position. How's that running back room shaping out as of now?
I think they've got a good 1 and 2. Then they've got a couple of youngsters behind those guys after that. I think that Wayshawn Parker and Akiri Rogers are probably your 1 and 2 running backs. Wayshawn had great production a year ago at Washington State, and he didn't have an offensive line anywhere near what he's got this year. And Rodgers, obviously, was a guy that was in the offense with Beck and Dampier last year as the number 2 running back last year. So I think they feel pretty good about that. Then you've got guys like Green and Bray and Gilroy as the backups to those guys. So I think they've got a good room. But I don't know that anybody is – I just think, Spence, the days of, John White and Devontae Booker and Zach Moss getting 30 carries a game, I think those are days gone by. I think you're going to see guys get, 15 to 17 carries if you're the lead back, maybe catch a few balls too, and then the backup running back, the number 2 guy, gets 12 to 13 to 14 carries, and then they split it after that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somehow Wayshawn Parker becomes that guy, but I think the way that, and again, that was in the Andy Ludwig scene. Maybe Jason Beck's a little bit different, but I think you'll probably see him divide the carries, 1, 2, 3, 4, teams, and then single digits after that.
Feels like it's been a very low drama fall camp. Would you corroborate that? And what does that say to you about just kind of the mentality, state of the team leading into the season?
I think that's a good thing because I've always said if you're breaking a lot of news in fall camp, 1, it means you've probably got a quarterback battle, which Utah does not, or 2, you've had a lot of injuries, which to this point at least Utah does not either. So I think that's good. Yeah, they've had some position battles. I mentioned the corner spot, the wide receivers, but again, they've known who their group is. It's just kind of settling the hierarchy there, and kind of the same thing along the defensive line too. You've got a lot of good, young, talented players who didn't have a lot of reps coming into fall camp, so they're getting those guys reps. But I think when you I think the word drama in and of itself, you don't want any of that. But they just haven't. There hasn't been a ton out there. I think they've just kind of known who they are coming out of the spring and into the summer and now into the fall, and now they're tweaking it just a little bit.
A lot of reports with the scrimmages, and, we kind of heard this a little bit last year as well, and I completely understand the approach as a result of the PTSD that everybody has because of the myriad of injuries that this program has suffered over the past couple of years. But the reports are maybe not as physical, maybe not as live, wanting to keep the ones on ice. Have you kind of sensed that as well and seen it?
Yeah, the thing that Kyle Whittingham's talked about this fall is taking a little bit more of an NFL model to his training camp. And the NFL isn't nearly as physical as it once was. I would say that Kyle Whittingham still probably runs one of the more physical college football camps. But I think they've even dialed it back a little bit from where they were. And some of the NCAA rules kind of force you to do that too, Spence. You're not allowed to have as many two-a-day practices as well, they don't really do two-a-day practices anymore. So it's different. I still think Kyle runs a physical camp, kind of the same way Andy Reid does in the NFL with the Chiefs, but it's just not to the same level it was 5, 10, 20 years ago.
And, ultimately that brings up an interesting question about balancing the dynamic of wanting to make sure your players are healthy, which should be priority number 1, but also being ready for live football, Bill, in less than 2 weeks. How do you think they're doing with that type of dichotomy and balance?
I think because college doesn't have preseason games like the NFL does, I think the way that Kyle Whittingham runs it with still a physical camp is probably the best way to do it until we get to that day where you can scrimmage a Utah State or a Weber State or even a junior college that's in your state. The best way to do it is to have your handful of physical practices. And, when you talk to the guys, they'll tell you these practices are still very physical, even toned back from where they were maybe a few years ago. So you're right. It is, Spence, striking the balance and trying to find that great, because again, the college football season's longer now. Back in the day, it was 11 games plus 12th game as a bowl game. Well, now it's 12 games. And then if you play in a conference championship, it's 13 games. If you make the college football playoff, it's 14, 15, maybe 16 games. And I know Utah's a program that plans to play in the postseason and maybe make a run in the postseason. So I think you begin that mentality and mindset in August. The good news is you've got, multiple bye weeks in some cases built into your schedule. So you can get some rest and rehab in season. But if you're approaching it and you think you're a team that's going to maybe be a conference championship or a playoff team, you've got to take that approach starting in August.
In years past, and certainly in years past, we were able to, witness practice in a way that we don't now. But you would hear a lot of reports, and this isn't a surprise. This is a program that is built on the DNA and the blueprint of being defense first, and the numbers bear that out over the years. Certainly, it was very easy to see a year ago. But in practice, it felt like oftentimes it was the defense dominating the offense. Has it been a little bit more balanced with a new group of offensive personnel and a new offensive coordinator throughout the course of spring and fall?
I think it's fair to say both have had their moments. I've been to some practices where the offense looked really, really sharp. And you and I both know Morgan Scalley. He doesn't like his defense to lose on a regular basis. So I've been to some practices where they've turned up the intensity and had their way as well. But the one thing I will say is the new offense that Jason Beck has brought in has done a good job at times of keeping the defense a little off balance. I just think he gives you so many different looks, and there's a good energy about this offense too, that they've had some, despite the fact they're installing it for the first time, they've had some practices where they've looked really good.
All right, so in years past, both Coach Witt and Kalani have been very clandestine about injuries, and it leads to another debate when it comes to which college coach you listen to about whether or not it actually gives you a competitive advantage. Lane Kiffin in the past has kind of mocked the idea. So has Lincoln Riley that, keeping the injuries secret gives you an advantage. That, there's some people that scoff at the notion. And look, as Kyle has always said, I don't have to do this. And until I do, I'm just not going to, because why tip your hand? And you understand that logic as well. Well, the Big 12, Riles, has now joined the ACC, the Big 10, and in addition to the SEC. So all P4 conferences are required to give injury reports 3 days prior to the game and then 90 minutes prior to kick. Our buddy Chris Kamrani quipped that he's excited to have Coach Witt list every player as either probable or questionable. And, they ultimately mandate this in the pros, and that doesn't stop the pros from kind of finding a way to circumvent the process either. But what's the Bill Riley take on now every conference and every member institution being mandated to report injuries?
To back up on what you said about Kyle, he's always been in favor of injury reports if it was uniform, because he's always had kind of a pro mentality about things. But he said, if everybody's not going to be required to do it, I'm not going to do it either. Well, now that everybody's required to do it, Kyle's probably going to do it just the way everybody else is too. So I don't think it's a bad thing. Being true, how serious they report, that's going to be up to the institution and things like that. But I can just tell you, I asked Kyle about it years ago. He's like, hey, I'm happy to do it if everybody else in college football is doing the same thing too, because I just don't think anybody should get a competitive advantage. I think it's tougher, Spence, in college because these kids are still going to class to hide injuries if they're serious injuries. And, muscle pulls are one thing, but, when the star running back's going to history class and he's got a boot on his foot, in the day and age of social media, his classmates somebody's going to probably post that. It's a little bit easier in pro football where you can hide players and they're not walking around a campus where a lot of people have cameras. They can hide themselves in their houses. So I've always said it's tougher to do on a college campus just because if these kids are truly required to go to class, and they are, although some of them have a lot of, computer classes, online classes now, it's a lot harder to hide those injuries.
I think the other dynamic here, and I want to be clear, I'm not, throwing anybody under the bus. The widespread acceptance / promotion of gambling has put these young men in a very precarious spot. The Athletic did a really interesting deep dive on all the direct messages that football players get from degenerate gamblers that just sacrifice their mortgage on a game line. Then the player sits, and it's their fault that they're getting divorced now. And obviously it's not, but people are idiots. And when it comes to the ability via social media to access somebody's direct messages, I can't imagine the toll that has to take. it's you're no longer able to insulate these kids from the inundation of information. Once upon a time, you're just saying, like, don't go to the Trib website or the Deseret News website or whatever. Like, there are 2 daily periodicals or maybe a couple of sports talk radio stations. Don't read or don't listen. Now, I mean, NBA coaches have stories of going into halftime to address their team. These are adults. These are pros that have their heads down, checking their direct messages, checking their social media at halftime of a pro game. I think what this does, Bill, in addition to, transparency from programs, it probably takes some of the pressure off these kids. And maybe these morons that like to attack them all the time will kind of take it easy.
Well, I hope so, because you and I both know it's the dark side of of sports fandom is where these kids, and they're kids to a point, but they are still in a lot of ways younger and experiencing these things for the first time, having to deal with these people that are just out of their minds. And then you throw the gambling component in there, it's tough. So I will say this, now that I'm working, on the university side of things, I could tell you they do a really good job of lecturing and telling these kids and educating these kids on all these things that you were just talking about, the dark side of it all. Now, you hope that it takes. There's no guarantee it does, but I can tell you, at least at Utah where I work, the education process on this stuff is really good and off the charts. And I'm going to guess most power institutions especially do a good job with that too. And, it's like everything in life, whether it's your kids, somebody else's kids, whether you're in a work, you can only educate people, whether they're student athletes or people that are working for you, to here's the right way to do it, here's what we need you to do, and provide them with all the information. So, but I do know that Utah does a really good job with it.
What does success against UCLA look like to you? Game one, flying home from the Rose Bowl, players, coaches feeling good. What does that look like?
I think number one is a win, whatever that might happen to be, because, road wins in college football against power programs are not easy to do. So it's coming out of there with a W. I think it's coming out of there with the offense looking pretty close to what you want it to look like, with Devin Dampier, not turning the football over, and Utah being able to kind of win at the line of scrimmage. And then I think probably defensively, you're going to want to hold Nico Iamaleava in check just a little bit. I think you want to avoid giving up big plays in week one, even though it's your first game of the season. So getting the win one, having that offense look really similar to what you think it should look like with Dampier in the offensive line, and probably preventing Iamaleava from having a big day, because I don't think UCLA yet in year two of Deshaun Foster is quite where they want to be or need to be from a talent standpoint. But they had some moments last year, Spence. They got better as the year went along. It's going to be year number two. It is a first-year quarterback in the system. He wasn't there in the spring, but I think that UCLA is always going to be able to attract talent. But I think you still need to take advantage of that talent while you can if you're Utah, because I think the two programs are in a little bit different places.
What are you hearing about, road fan attendance this year, if anything at all? I mean, UCLA at the Rose Bowl is the Rose Bowl. The venue is the venue. I do feel like with UCLA football maybe not being what it once was, oftentimes I'll fire up my TV and wonder where everybody is. But atmosphere on the road game one, are we expecting a large Ute fan contingent?
I know a lot of fans that are going down. One, because it's Labor Day weekend. Two, it's easy to get to in L.A. You've got the beach and Newport and stuff. And, three, there's a lot of good memories down there. So I think there's going to be a fair contingent of Utah fans to go to this first game. I've talked to a lot of my friends that are going to go down for the weekend, especially because it's Labor Day weekend. So, I think there'll be a good contingent of Utah fans. UCLA always has to fight it. I mean, Westwood and it's beautiful, but the Rose Bowl and you've spent time in LA. It's not easy to get to from where the campus and where all the students are. And that game's late at night on a Saturday night. And it's Labor Day weekend. So there's some challenges certainly they'll face, but I think Utah's going to have a good traveling party down there.
And then, Wyoming, I know it's Laramie, but you got to take advantage of the proximity because, obviously they're at BYU too. That's another road game that's close by. But, you're at West Virginia, you're at Baylor, and then the final game, of course, is your alma mater at Kansas. I would imagine the ability to go on the road with games that are close. You got 3 of them this year, which is a benefit because you're not going to see that most years,
No, you're absolutely right. And, Wyoming is, you can you can leave in the morning and be there kickoffs at like 6, I think. So, I mean, there's 7. So you could be there. You could leave at noon and be to the game and then drive back home after the game, kind of relive those old WAC and Mountain West Conference days. The BYU game's not too far away. West Virginia is not an easy place to get to, but I do know I've talked to some fans that are going to make that trip, and I've heard great things about Morgantown in the fall. I was there in the winter, and it was a little bleak for basketball, but I've heard great things about the fall, so I think there might be some fans, but it's not easy to get to. It's, fly to Pittsburgh and drive an hour and a half.
Well, in the road trip to Laramie, you can enjoy a nice hard-boiled egg at a Flying J on your way, so it's a win-win.
Or maybe get what are they now? They used to be 10-cent cones at Little America. Maybe they're 35-cent or 50-cent cones now on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're worried about your budget, that's the trip you should take. All right, let's move over here. Oh, actually, real quick, I wanted to ask you, QB2. Seems like and I love that we're not talking QB1. It's such a great sign. But QB2, Riles, how's that battle shaping up?
It's been up and down. Bird Ficklin will have a good day of practice, and Isaac will have a struggling practice. Then they'll turn right back around, and Isaac will look great. And I'll tell you what, Isaac Wilson has made some great throws in fall camp. And then Ficklin, because he's a freshman, will have some days. I think that's probably the one that's going to go down to the very end. May not be decided till next week sometime. Hopefully we don't need to find out who QB2 is on the field right away. But I think that's still to be determined. It's just picking up a new offense for both guys. And like I said, both guys have had great moments, and both guys have had some struggles in fall camp. So I don't know that I can give you a definitive leader right now on that one, Spence.
What are you willing to say about the first 6 games of the season prior to the road trip down to Provo? So at UCLA, home Cal Poly, at Laramie, home Texas Tech, on the road Morgantown, then home Arizona State. Like, the nice thing about this schedule, even though it's ranked as a top 3, one of the top 3 hardest schedules in the Big 12, is the top 25 teams in your conference are all in Salt Lake City. But what are you willing to say about the first – Riles, you're nothing if not bold. So prior to the BYU game, what are you willing to say about what you think Utah can do during those first 6 games?
I think if Devin Dampier is what we think he is and he can stay healthy, I can foresee Utah going to Provo undefeated. I really can. If Devin or the offense, and I don't even think it's Devin. I think it would be more maybe the surrounding cast, playmakers aren't maybe have evolved to the point where they need to be. I think that they might have a loss in their back pocket. But I think Utah could very easily be undefeated going to Provo. I could also see them being maybe 5-1 going to Provo too, because as you mentioned, they've got Texas Tech, who's going to be very good. They've also got Arizona State, who's going to be very good as well. And that trip to Morgantown is not going to be easy. They should be better with Rich Rod there, and it's a tough place to play. But I think this team, Spence, is talented enough, certainly, to be undefeated. But I could see a 5-1 team going to Provo as well.
I want to sneak in a basketball question real quick. Salt Lake Tribune today with a good piece on the spend that BYU has made on both football and basketball. Their reports are the average Big 12 basketball roster this year costs about $12 million. BYU's is about $15 million. I don't know what Alex has at his disposal. Ran into him last week at the Red Zone store. Definitely check out the Red Zone store prior to football season. So what, in your estimation, does success look like year one for Alex Jensen and the Running Utes?
I think it's a buy-in to Alex's philosophy, style, and culture, because you've got to set that in place if anything's going to happen. Saw him Saturday night at FanFest. He's really happy with where things are. And then, from there, I think this team's going to be competitive. I think the athleticism is going to be really, really good. Do they have enough shooting? We'll see that once they kind of get on the floor just a little bit. But I think success this year for Alex is instilling his philosophy and culture and being competitive in a lot of you're going to win games. It's not like Utah. They're going to win games. Can you be competitive and pull off a few upsets this year? Whether it's in Provo or it's in Lawrence or it's in Waco, wherever those might happen to be, Do you have a couple of, hey, we're going to plant our flag? See, we're competitive in this league, and we've pulled off an upset or two as well. Utah was competitive with Craig Smith. They just, in the biggest games, they came up just a little bit short. I think it's being competitive, but also being able to pull off an upset here and there, too.
All right, Riles, before I set you loose, tell us about what we have going on with our good friends over at Handy and Handy.
Well, they're kind enough, Spence. They're great partners at ESPN 700 to sponsor this segment with you and the one I do with Sean every week. They say it big firm experience, small firm, attention. They're just great. Preston and Garrett Handy. They've got 45 years combined experience between them. My hope is that none of our listeners ever have to call, because that means they weren't hurt in an injury at work or in a car or something like that. But if you are, and that's reality, Preston and Garrett Handy, Handy Law, Handy and Handy can take good care of you. You can find them online at Handy Law Utah, and let them know you heard it here on ESPN 700.
Thank you, my friend. Be good. Appreciate the time. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Spence. Talk to you soon.
Football season is here, and the Utah ESPN Radio Network is getting you ready with 31 days of football presented by Baskin-Robbins. Tune in daily for the best coverage of the NFL, college, and Utah area high schools. It's the 31 days of football presented by Baskin-Robbins on your home for football on ESPN 700. All right, we'll catch a break. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Elliot Fall joins us in studio. Coming up on the other side of a Monday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. All right, shout out to our good friends at Beer Bar. Go to beerbarslc.com. On remote there all the time. Our guy Nick Raimondo. Ty Burrell, close personal friend, no big deal. Everyone's favorite TV dad. You're home for all RSL watch parties. And quite frankly, any watch party, if you want to go check out a Jazz game or Utah football game or whatever. Beer Bar right downtown Salt Lake City. The construction over there is actually settling a bit, so you can find places to park. BeerBarSLC.com is where you go. All right, special thank you to Dr. Chris Hill, live in studio for an entire hour earlier. Bill Riley, voice of the Ute, stopped by, courtesy of our friends at Handy and Handy. Our next guest, we've been working on this for a little while, former RSL general manager and good friend, Elliot Falls, live in studio. Elliot, good to see you, man. How are you?
Great. I'm great. Great to see you.
Oh, I know you're great now because we had a little Ed Sheeran bumping us in. So that juiced you up, yeah?
Oh, that was, I mean, and it was perfect. It's a good one. That's a banger.
So for our listeners that have no clue, Elliot and I play golf together from time to time. He is a very good player. I've learned a lot just watching him play. And we both have our speakers going at the same time, so it's like rival music. And we have pretty similar tastes in music, but occasionally I'll notice a Shaggy song or something.
I don't think you've ever heard a Shaggy song.
But one day,
that was when Trey's phone started ringing. What happened.
Oh, that would be so sick if that was his ringtone. But one day, I'm getting ready to tee off, and I'm like, is that Ed Sheeran in the background, Castle on the Hill? And let me be clear, that's a banger. It's a good song. I just didn't know you were an Ed Sheeran.
You find some space. And honestly, when you're out on the golf course for a while, you gotta change it up. You can't just have the same old.
No, this is true.
And you can't give Trey the control.
You can never give Trey the control. Let's be clear about that. How good do you think you are at golf?
Not very good right now. Haven't been playing well lately.
That's not true. Do you think if you allocated time and energy to just you get a great coach, you're playing every day, which you kind of do anyway. You're hitting balls all the time.
Some people think so.
But you genuinely try to be as good as you possibly can.
Sure.
How good do you think you could be? Because you're close to a scratch. I know you say you're not, but you are.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I could get to a plus handicap.
You could.
I don't, certainly nowhere near, the great players you see, in some places. I played around. I mean, it's always humbling when you play with really good golfers.
Uh-huh.
I played around. You know this. A few of us like to play the Nibley Men's League.
Indeed.
And Nibley's a fun place, and shout out to Andrew Meacham and the pro there. He does an unbelievable job. It's a lot of fun. Cool men's league. Fridays we go out in the club championship. None of my friends played with me, so I had to play. I got paired up by myself with a couple other.
Some of us have jobs, Elliot.
It was a Saturday and Sunday. Your job does.
But to qualify for that, I have to play on Fridays, and I did the best I could.
I'm not even talking about you.
Okay. Well, I thought you said friends. I hurt my feelings. But you retired early, and we'll get there. But anyway, as you were, club championship.
Anyway, I got paired with a couple guys, and they cleaned my clock in the club championship. I mean, and I've actually played with them a couple times since, and the one guy went out and shot 5 under this week at Nibley.
Who are these people?
Yeah, they're just good golfers.
Like college guys, golfers,
they're about my age.
Huh?
Yeah.
See, it always depresses me every time I feel like I'm improving a little bit to hear that there are so many people that are so much better at this than I am.
Yeah, there's a lot of good golfers out there. There's a lot of good golfers in the state of Utah.
There is. I'm better now than I was when we first started playing together. At least give me that.
Certainly.
Okay.
You're not a bad golfer.
Oh, I don't think I'm a bad golfer.
You're a good golfer. Sorry, I should be more clear. You are a good golfer.
Well, that's kind of you to say. But just when you think you're good, you play with somebody like our guy Steele DeWalt, my guy.
Sure. Yeah.
And did you play against him when you were a judge? Or is he a little bit younger than you are?
No, I think he was the same. I mean, I think we I only played 2 years at judge, but I'm pretty sure because he went to Park City. I'm 99% sure. I think we overlapped at least 1 year, if not both years.
It was wild watching him play and watching you watching golfers like him problem solve. It's they think of things that you would not even consider.
Yeah, there's so many aspects of the game that challenge you, right? And that if you're not if you're not proficient at, you're gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Like you can have a great swing. If you can't chip a ball, you're done.
Yeah.
If you can't make a 5-footer, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
you undo all the good work you do getting there.
Yeah.
It's a tough game, man. It humbles you. It really does. And at least for me, and I think this goes for most golfers, as soon as you feel like you've found something, you lose it. You lose whatever it is, or you lose something else. I mean, it's a tough game, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge. This weekend I was back in Indianapolis with my brother, and we played this great track. 4 of the holes are actually in the Indy 500 racetrack. It's
I've
really
heard of that.
cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool. Front 9, and I'm not sure I've ever done this before. I birdied 2 of the first 5 holes.
All right.
Then we're on a par 3. We're about 178 out. I wrote my 7-iron. I'm like, that is all over it. Hit it within 3 feet. I'm like, okay, this could be your 3rd birdie in the first 6 holes. I don't know that I've ever
Shouldn't
done that
have
before.
thought that.
Correct. Because what I did was I pulled a 2.5 footer for birdie, tapped in for par, and then I melted down.
Yeah.
I think I shot a 38 on the front and then a 48 on the back because I was in my head about that birdie putt.
I mean, the best thing and it's impossible to do, but certainly all the time. But the best thing you can do for your score is to not know what your score is.
100%.
I mean, if you know where you are, that's when it gets in your head and you start playing defensive and you're toast. And like you said, you got a 3-footer and you're like, oh man, I just got to make this.
I'm going low today.
And it's,
nope.
And what's crazy about it is we talk about this and then you watch the pros on the weekend. Some of them do the same thing.
Yeah.
And like we talk about how going out, you end up playing with a great player. Don't you think all the PGA Tour guys who end up getting paired with Scotty Scheffler these days feel the same way?
Yeah.
It's I'm feeling good about myself. I just won a tournament. Oh, now I got to play Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah. No, it's funny you reference Scotty because I just pulled this up because, I didn't used to, I never played golf growing up. I got into it over the past few years and playing with people like you and getting better equipment and taking lessons has helped, but I never really covered it either. But it's such a behemoth now that if you're in this space, you better become familiar a little bit at least with what's going on in the world of golf. And so I cover it in a way that I didn't used to. And I bring it up in this context. I didn't cover it when Tiger was Tiger, which honestly depresses me because I've read the book and I've watched the documentary like 10 times. And if the Golf Channel ever shows like, hey, Tiger highlights coming up, I'm recording it and I'm watching all of it. I really wish I was watching and covering it when Tiger was Tiger. Yeah. But because I didn't, and now I'm covering it in a different way, I do this thing where I'm like, it feels like Scotty's having this Tiger-like run. And then you pull up these stats. So
I was going to say something like you're heading towards. Go ahead.
Well, and I actually honestly want your thoughts. So Scotty just became the first golfer since Tiger to have 2 straight seasons of 5 wins or more on tour.
Sure.
And it's only Scotty and Tiger over the past 40 years. So Scotty has done it once, 2024 and 2025. So I heard first since Tiger. Okay, well, then he's having this Tiger-like run. Tiger did it in 99, 2000, 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2006, 2006, 2007. He did it 6 times.
He's
back-to-back seasons with 5 or more wins on tour. Tiger did it 6 times. Scotty's done it once. They're the only golfers in 40 years to do it.
If you're feeling good about yourself on the golf course, go read some Tiger stats, and you will really humble yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're just the most unbelievable. The one about Scotty's been number 1 in the world for 3 straight years. Nobody's even coming close to him.
Right.
He'd have to be number 1 in the world till 2036 to match Tiger's streak.
That's just wild, man.
I mean, Tiger. Did you see the shot Scotty hit yesterday to win the tournament?
Yep.
Effectively on 17. You sit there and you're like, that's one of the greatest shots you've ever seen. And then you think about the natural comparison is Tiger's shot on 16 in the Masters.
In your life, have you ever seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that shot makes Scotty's shot look like a 3-foot putt.
Yeah.
And it's just the things Tiger was able to do. And what's crazy about Tiger is He's probably the best iron player of all time. Like he comes into golf, right? And he hits it a mile and he's overpowering courses and like everybody's heard it, you know, oh, you got a tiger-proof golf courses. That's why they started lengthening them, all this stuff. It's not even close to what the best part of his game was. He was maybe the best iron player of all time. His short game is outrageous as displayed by the shot on 16 at the Masters among a million other shots. And then he was probably the best putter maybe to ever live.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a stat recently where it was like I'm just making this up, but it's something like this, where he had like 1,800 putts inside 4 feet in 2 years, and he missed 2 of them.
It's just unfathomable.
If you give me 1,800 putts inside 4 inches,
yeah.
I think I'd miss 2 of them.
It blows the mind in a different way when you actually try to be good at it.
Yeah.
When you try to play the game, and then you realize like how hard it is to be good and consistent, and how wild it is that he did what he did. Now, he's not going to get Jack's record. Injuries and then proclivity for Perkins waitresses and such kind of threw him off the rails. But do you think he's the greatest that's ever done it?
100%. I think he's the greatest that's ever done it. But I also think, someday, I mean, hey, he may never have this conversation. Who knows? But like, he probably has to reckon a little bit with the fact that it was him. It like the injuries were even him in a lot of ways
because of the swing change.
Yeah.
Okay.
The swing stuff is wild to me. I mean, he went out and he won the Masters in record-breaking fashion. He won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach by 100 shots, whatever it was. I mean, and you know that story, right? I mean, that one's unbelievable. He won that tournament by 13 strokes or something like that. And then he goes out and completely changes his golf swing because and it's what got him where he was. So I also understand how this is the mentality of an athlete, right? Like there's this pursuit of perfection, at least at the very top ends of sports, where you're never satisfied. You never think you're good enough. And of course the irony is like you also go out and you believe you're the best every day you're out there. Mm-hmm. So it's this weird, dichotomy in your head, but he thought there was something to fix, and so he went out and completely redid his golf swing, and I think that led to some of the injuries. Obviously there's other things that happened, but like he was winning majors by 15 strokes. Like, what do you need to go change? Just go do it again. Just keep at it.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up because I listened to an interview, or you know what, this is actually during one of the golf channels, like, hey, this is when Tiger was Tiger broadcast. And they interviewed Wyndham Clark. I'm trying to think when Wyndham said his swing was when Tiger's swing was at his best. Is there an era where you felt like his swing was in the best place and he never should have touched it?
I think it's hard to argue against that,
early 2000s,
98, 2000 to 2003, kind of like when he won the Masters, the first Masters, that Pebble Beach U.S. Open, when he had the Tiger Slam where he held all the majors at the same time. I mean, and by the way, we haven't talked about his amateur career. You know that he won 3 consecutive U.S. junior amateurs and then won 3 consecutive U.S. amateurs. Like, that's mind-blowing.
In and of itself, it's mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing that he did that.
And also, and again, yes, his career was derailed as a result of some poor personal decisions and the health, as you referenced with his swing change. But what the other thing that's interesting about this sport to me is how many great young golfers get derailed by fatigue or not wanting to live. It was interesting talking to Steele about this because at the media tournament prior to the Utah Am, they paired me with him, and they did that intentionally because he's a pro. Now he's an amateur now because he's trying to qualify, and I'm learning all this stuff in real time. Like, you can qualify for the Masters and the U.S. Open in the amateur route, and Steele has a very successful career. So he referenced how, like, money was immaterial to him. He didn't need to grind to make the money. But he was telling me about the lifestyle, the grind to just get your card, go to Q school. It's interesting. I said, during Q school, who was the one golfer that you played with or against that you felt was? He said Xander. Said it was Xander.
Oh, Xander.
When he ran into Xander, he's like, okay, that's different. I'm not sure that I can ever be that.
Yeah.
But there are a myriad of different things that derail these golfers before they ever even touch their apex. And again, Tiger was derailed, but after an incredible apex. Like, the fact that everything fell into line the way that it did, it's one of the most remarkable stories in the history of sport.
It really is. And then by the way, the 2019 Masters, like, are you kidding? The comeback? I mean,
I watched that live.
It was
awesome.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. By the way, you know our friend Matt, who plays golf with us.
Yep.
He was there.
Oh, he was at that tournament.
He left on.
That's cool.
He left on Sunday morning, so he wasn't there for the final round, but he was there. Do you remember? It's actually funny. Do you remember the shot where Tiger hit a ball out of the trees and had to curl it around? And he had the gallery around him, and that I believe it was one of the security guards comes running by and slips on the wet grass and almost takes Tiger's leg out.
Yep.
In the TV shot, you can see Matt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that was Father's Day, too, by the way, right? I believe.
No, Father's Day is U.S. Open.
Oh, yes. You're right. My bad.
It might have been something about because his father. Like, anyway, yeah, but there was something about it. And it was just an unbelievable tournament.
Well, and then the relationship with his dad is so fascinating to me.
Because
the fact of the matter is he's not Tiger without Earl, but there was still, a lot of things about that relationship.
It's not hard to make an argument it was an unhealthy relationship.
Well, and you just wonder how much of Tiger's ultimate downfall was learned behavior, right? Like all of the things we learned about his dad later on and the womanizing. And anyway, all right, before we catch a break, I wanted to have you in studio for a while now. And coming up next, I want to talk about, where you feel the club is at now, what it was like to build what I perceive to be for about 18 to 20 matches last year is the best team we've had here. I truly believe that. But before we catch a break, let's get to know you a little bit for our listeners who don't. Local kid, Judge High kid, Utah kid.
Yep.
And you're a little bit like me. You're not just like a soccer guy. Like, you love Utah football. You grew up loving the Jazz. Like,
I was listening to you with Dr. Chris Hill today, and you were talking about Hiram Urban and the Muss. I was in the Muss. I was in the Muss for both undefeated seasons.
That's
it was
awesome.
Unreal.
Yeah.
It literally brought chills down my spine.
So tell us about your path, and then we'll get to the RSL stuff on the other side.
Yeah. So, like you said, local guy, grew up, right within walking distance of Rice Eccles, going to games as a kid, huge Jazz fan as a kid. I mean, the Stockton to Malone pick and roll in the 96-97 finals runs are seared in my brain. I mean, that's sports fandom to me. Like, that is, and then the Utes going to the Final Four and the championship match or championship game. God, there's the soccer guy.
There it
coming
is. Yep.
And falling short against Kentucky. I mean, I literally I remember where I was getting ready to watch those games. Like, that was my fandom. But yeah, I grew up playing soccer. Played golf in high school too. I would say wasn't great at either one of them. I've gotten better at golf since then because I worked up at Mountain Dell for 7 years, and it was, I tell people the best job I ever had. It's tough when the best job you ever have is the first job you ever have. But yeah, so grew up in the area, went to the U. Again, was a student for both undefeated seasons. So that was a special time. Got my degree in economics and was looking for an internship the summer before my senior year, and got connected, with RSL. I was interned for Trey,
which is just a lot of coffee runs.
I mean, yeah, he still owes me money for, I'm sure, 20 to 30 of them. But,
can't imagine.
It is what it is.
No.
But no, got in at such a fun time at RSL. So I started in April of 2007. I mean, that time really well. And it's wild to see what the club and what the sport and the landscape is now compared to back then. It's just that you can't even compare it. I mean, it was, we were in our offices at Trolley Corners, and there had been groundbreaking of the stadium, but it was still, it and you were right in the heart of it. Your dad getting, making things happen. And the number of times that was on the verge of falling apart, and obviously MLS was a totally different landscape then. So just got to be a part of that and grow up in that. And then, got lucky and was hired for a full-time position at the end of my internship. And
what was your
there.
first full-time? Was it team admin?
No, it was
okay.
PR. So
PR.
I came on the PR team full-time January 2008. And did that for 2 years. So I was on the PR team through the title run. In fact, I don't even know where this is a bummer to say I don't know where it is. I'd really have to dig and try to find it. But I was in the locker room with a video camera on my shoulder when David Beckham came in after the final to congratulate the guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had it on video as far away as you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know where it ended up, but
I feel like I've seen that footage somewhere.
I think it's somewhere. Like, I don't think it's gone, but it would not be that easy to find. Yeah. But someday I probably should, because it was a cool moment. But yeah, so was on the PR team, and then Garth brought me on as the team admin the next year. Then worked as the team admin for several years and worked my way up from there. When Garth left, Weibel took over. Weibel brought me in as the assistant GM, and did that while Weibs was there, and started the Monarchs and was the first GM of the Monarchs, and got to dip my toe in those waters there. And then when Weibs left,
you were the guy.
Became the GM.
You were the guy. And built a really good club. And we'll leave it. We'll leave it there for now, and we'll do more on this coming up on the other side. Elliot is live in studio. But before we catch a break, we welcome in Ryan from the Dish Professionals. Here's the deal. Football is right around the corner. If you're a sports fan and you don't have Dish, I can tell you you're doing that wrong. You can save a bunch of money by making the switch today with a bunch of good promotions and internet solutions as well by dialing 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Spence, I love this time of year, and I love hooking people up. And, guys, this is the coolest promotion Dish has ever done. I love this thing because it's so stacked. It's got so many additional offers, and a lot of them apply to sports fans. So that's the part of the thing that I love the most. Listen, if you call right now, you get Dish's great 2-year promotion. It's credits for 2 years. Here's the kicker. It's got a price guarantee, so the price isn't going to change. You've got the award-winning Hopper Plus technology, where all the streaming apps are built into the system, so you can have pick up one remote and go between traditional TV, DVR, straight to streaming. You want to watch Netflix, it's literally just a channel. It's that easy. Call us up. We'll get you set up with that. I'm going to throw in 3 months of service for free, because this part is big. So if you're a cable or DirecTV customer, I guarantee it's $30+ a month. A lot of times we see it like $60, $80 a month cheaper. So this is not just a few dollars, it's a lot. Plus you get the 3 months on top of that. So now you're into thousands easily just by calling, because you're going to save that much money. We're also going to throw in the multi-sports pack, which includes the NFL Red Zone, best channel ever. If you're an NFL fan, this is a legit channel. You get that free for the next 6 months, which includes the whole season. We'll get you set up with that. Throw in Showtime, Paramount Plus, free for 4 months, and we'll get you installed for free, plus throw in dinner at JCW's. This is a great opportunity. Listen, if you're a cable or DirecTV customer, your bill just went up or it's going up again. You're going to get a rate increase. Lower your bill, upgrade, get a better system, bigger DVR. Let us hook you up with that 3 months free offer, plus all the extras with the NFL Red Zone, and have you installed as early as next day. You just got to call us. Remember, too, internet-wise, we are literally the internet professionals. I have half a dozen internet service providers at my fingertips, and even the companies you would least likely think that I offer, I do. I have them also. So you can call, instead of calling around to every single company, say, hey, what's my internet options? Call us. We'll lay out everybody who's available at your address. If you're spending more than $60 a month, you're overpaying. So call us up. We'll lower that bill, get you a better service for a better price. Even if you have fiber too, remember, a lot of these areas are deregulated. What that means is that other providers can use the same fiber, and you just pay your bill to somebody else, and it's cheaper. It's simple. Plus, we got great tricks, too, so you don't have to go through and change logins on all of your internet devices that are connected. We'll make it a quick, easy, simple change. You just pay less money. Call us, 424-DISH, 801-424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. More with Elliot live in studio after a quick break here on ESPN 700. We got college football coming your way during the 5 o'clock hour. Then we have Best Of later on today, where you'll hear from Dr. Chris Hill, who was live in studio for an entire hour. So stay tuned for that. Elliot Fall is live in studio, former RSL general manager. All righty, so we talked about kind of your path before the break that led you to becoming the GM. And for the kids out there, it is quite a story. Intern, 2007, general manager, climbed his way up the ranks. What was your reaction when Deloy at the time told you, like, okay, gig's yours? Were you intimidated? Were you surprised? Were you grateful? Were you nervous? What were those emotions?
I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. I might have told you. I said I don't want it.
Initially, you pushed back a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I said, look, I appreciate it, Deloy, but I would love to have a conversation about expanding my role, but I'd like to look at what it's like in a slightly different capacity or something like that. And he said, no, that's not what we're talking about. And I said, and look, I had been the GM of the Monarchs. I was the assistant GM of RSL, so it's not like it was a job that I didn't understand. I knew what the job was. I knew the demands of the job. But truthfully, I think part of it was I also knew that when you take that job, you're starting a clock on your position.
Yep.
And you don't necessarily know when that clock ends, but it's going to end. And I don't know. That's not what I was, I didn't necessarily want that. I wanted, I wanted to be at the club long term. So, all that said, I said I don't want it. Was there ever any part of me that wasn't going to take it? No, of course. I was going to take the job, and I was excited about it. I loved the job. It was fun. It's a dream job. It's millions of people want that job.
Yeah, you started as a coffee runner in 2007. You worked your way up to GM of the team. It's a wild success story.
I was tearing down downsizing banners at Rice Eccles.
We all were.
I know we were, but for free.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing, and then it turned into what it turned into, and it was unbelievable. It was an incredible ride. I wouldn't trade a single bit of it for anything. But yeah, so that was kind of my initial reaction. That said, I was also really excited, and it was fun to get to lead the soccer side of the organization, and it was a good time.
Yeah, you can be a mediocre senior VP of comms, temperamental, emotional, angry, and stay with the club for 20 years. But if you're the GM or the coach, you are hired to be fired. You just are. That's pro sports.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I knew that.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's also, and this may, I certainly hope that this doesn't come off as, I don't know exactly what you'd say it comes off as, but in it, me complaining or anything like that. But it's a really exhausting job, and I gained a real perspective and a real understanding of why, people who are in those jobs don't stay in those jobs forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's all consuming. So it was a blast. It was an unbelievable ride, but I think it also, it worked out.
And we'll get there. We'll get there in a moment. What was the first major decision, personnel-wise, you made? Do you remember? The first big decision you had to make personnel-wise. You remember what that was?
Selling Savarino.
Selling Sava?
I think. I took over, it was like August or September or whatever it was of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there wasn't much to do at that point. We were a good team.
Yep.
We made the playoffs, made a little bit of a run won a game in the playoffs. I think we lost to Seattle that year on the road. So I guess so then fast forward to the next offseason, which of course turned into the COVID season, which was its own wild situation. But we did sell Sava before COVID hit. So I guess I would say selling Sava as was my first major decision as the GM. I was, that said, I was involved in, a lot of major decisions before that, but with my name on the line or my name in lights, whatever you want to say, I think it was selling Sava.
So you were, I'm trying to do the time. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I'm trying to do the timeline here. I do. It was an Uncrustable. Because they're so good.
They're amazing.
You were named the GM prior to the COVID Deloitte drama. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because I was wondering if any of your reservation was steeped in the information that the league was about to run the team and what that was like. But you were the GM prior to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move over to that timeline now. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we might need our own. We might need several shows set aside for this.
For sure, and you're welcome back anytime, as you know. But it's wild because I can remember, so this show just turned 6 last week. We've been doing this 6 years now, which both feels like yesterday and forever. It's hard for me to quantify. But when I first, was back on air, a lot of people asked, like, do you think Elliott's up to the task? And I said, well, only results will tell the story because that's the way this thing goes. I mean, it is more than almost anything else, a results-oriented business. Obviously, if you're in other areas of commerce, you have to sell to make money or whatever. But if it's a good team and they win, then he's the guy. And if they go the other way, then it was the wrong call. But within 3 or 4 months of this show starting, Deloitte goes on X96 in the morning and says what he said. Yeah. And there's this moment in time where RSL employees are furloughed. MLS is canceled. They have the MLS is back tournament, which is a name they actually came up with and somebody approved, like the dumbest name in the world. But suddenly we were going to have an RSL game. We know the deal. That was a summer of real racial unrest and social justice and people expressing themselves in a very specific way, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. That was a hot time in our country. It was a passionate, heavy time.
Yep.
Where everybody was on edge for a myriad of different reasons, whether it was the person you didn't want in the White House being there, a pandemic potentially killing people, or, George Floyd situation where everybody was really, everything was heightened. Okay.
Yep.
So
you want to throw the earthquake in there too, because it happened right around then too.
You mean like the 6 earthquakes? Yeah, I'm living downtown, man. I thought we were all dying. So Deloitte goes on to X96. I should rewind. RSL game is canceled. Okay, players decided to protest. Right.
Yeah. To be clear, every game in the league.
Yes, RSL, along with every other team in the league, decides to stand in solidarity with the message, and we're not playing. Okay. Deloitte takes that as an affront, which, by the way, I understood at the time. I get it. All the work they put in to make this event happen, bringing employees back that were furloughed, goes on X96, expresses his disappointment. My phone blows up in a way that it very rarely blows up. And then an hour later, it's decided he's coming on this show to apologize. And I'm like, all right. I mean, he owns the station. He owns the team. If this is the deal, this is the deal. Unfortunately, damage was done at that point. Did the best I could to give Deloitte the space to express himself, which I thought he did in a very Deloitte way, to try to walk it back a little bit. But the damage was already done. And then Deloitte decides he was not. This is something that's been lost in history. He was not forced to sell the soccer team. He decided he did not want to have the headache anymore, and also was in an equity position to make some money. Okay, so he made a calculated decision. You say what you want about Deloitte; he's not dumb. Okay,
sure.
As far as his business acumen goes.
By the way, this is not to take us on a tangent, but
good.
This is something. The scenario you just laid out is actually not really indifferent from nearly every team in every professional sport that where the owner has been seemingly pushed out of the league, like people perceive the owner to have been forced out.
Mm-hmm.
They almost always make that decision on their own. It's so difficult to force somebody out in these situations.
Right.
It almost never I don't even know if it ever has happened.
Yeah, but I think that was the narrative. Like,
it is. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He said some things that hurt some people's feelings, and MLS said, okay, you have to sell the team. That's not how it went down. I sat with him before he decided to do it because we were talking about some other things, and he walked me through the process. Totally understood. Was, again, in a position to make some money, and he has gone on to do some other things with his life as opposed to dealing with, owning a soccer team, which comes with its own headaches, which I am uniquely familiar with.
Sure.
But how was that situation digested by the front office of the club when all that went down and when you realized that there was going to be an ownership transition, and for a moment in time, you were going to report to the league because they were going to operate the team while Deloitte found a buyer? What was that like for you?
Because
Deloitte gave you your shot.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And look, to take a step back on the Deloitte side of this, I mean, I'm not defending the things that that Deloitte said. They weren't things that can be said. But I also, kind of like you alluded to, you understood where he was coming from. I'm not saying I understood where he was coming from, but I think Deloitte was a very complex. He's a very complex person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, he said things that I've never spoken to him about it. I don't know if he would, I don't know what he would say about what he said at this point. But again, things that you can't say and shouldn't have been said. But I also think that there were, he wanted to do right by people at, a lot of the time. I mean, he did a lot of hard work for a lot of people. And so it is a complex situation. So that was a wild, that dynamic in and of itself was kind of wild. And to your point, having been given a chance by Deloitte and all of those things. And, so obviously I had a relationship with Deloitte. That said, it was the wildest time I can remember in my life. It was that 48 hours or whatever it was. It was sleepless. It was, on the phone constantly talking to people, like trying to even get a grasp for how to handle it, what to do. It's just such a unique situation. There's no preparing you for that. There's, the kind of the firestorm of it all. And it was a wild experience. I don't know how else to say it. It's not something I'd ever want to go through again.
Yeah.
It was emotional. It was challenging. And so, yeah.
Did he tell you personally that he was selling? How'd you get that information?
Yeah, he did. There was also, and I don't remember kind of sequentially how things happened, but there, in addition to, I probably had one conversation with Deloitte after that day.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a conversation where he, kind of walked me through what was happening. And then there was also, the league was stepping in. So the league was also kind of giving us information. And that's when John Kimball came in. And so getting information from John. So I don't remember kind of which.
Yeah.
I don't remember what order it happened in.
Yeah.
But, I heard it from all those sides.
Yeah, and Deloitte compartmentalized in a very interesting way. When he was done, he was done. He had my time, and now it's time for somebody else, and I'm going to go on and do some other things with my life, which he's done. So then you're reporting to the league prior to the official transition. Who were you talking to, And when you went to make a decision, how did that mechanism work?
We weren't really talking to anybody.
You were just doing your thing.
Well, I mean, the edict was essentially, here's your budget.
Mm.
Your budget is, it was basically, your budget is what it was. Like, we're not changing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, if there's a major decision that needs to be made, like, we want to be clued in. And that was more or less directly, like, with the commissioner's office. It wasn't with, Don himself, but with his office. And, he works very closely. So for me, like, on the player side, the Todd Durbin, who runs the player side of MLS. I had a few conversations with Todd here and there, but again, it wasn't. They were great, and they let us do our thing. They did let us just execute. And in some ways, it was the most rewarding time I had there, because, and this isn't. I don't really mean this as a shot at any of the ownership situations that we had, but it was the one where it was, okay, go ahead, do your thing. Like, you guys have a plan, you have a process, go ahead, execute the plan and the process. And, we'll let you know if anything's going to change. And that's what we did. And if you remember, we made a run to the conference finals. So
you did, yeah.
And there were ups and downs. I'm not pretending that it was, the easiest thing ever, but it was rewarding then to have those successes. And that was a lot of fun.
Had to be a little bit liberating not to be micromanaged too, but right. Maybe like have a little freedom.
Yeah. I mean, no question about it. I think I learned a lot from that time, about what it takes to successfully lead as well.
Yeah.
And to your point, it is, in a lot of cases, to step away and to say, I hired you to do this job. Go do the job.
Yep.
And let me know if you need anything. I don't need you to tell me every step of the way. Obviously, as things go, I want to just know what's happening, but I don't, and I think that is how really successful organizations in sports, in business, in anything are built. That's how that's true leadership to me. So I learned a lot about it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
All right. I thought we might get long-winded, so we got a couple of minutes here. So let's couple of different things. It goes fast when you're talking about interesting things. So let's move over into the space of the club that you built. And it's interesting. Soccer fans are just miserable people. They just are. And, I think you took a lot of flack from people that wondered if you were just a lackey, wondered if you were up to the task. And I know you're not, like, actively on social media, but anecdotally, you and I went to watch an RSL game a couple of years back after you were let go, and we went into Beer Bar. And they started booing. And I wondered if they were booing you when we walked in. It turns out they were booing the game. But I'm like, wait, did they see
That was
Elliot?
funny.
Yeah, I honestly thought they were booing you. But you took a lot of flack during the course of the roster construct. But really what it culminated in is, and best laid plans aside, because sports is so fickle, for a moment in time, you may have built the best team we had here. And I truly believe that to be true. And I can remember when I heard about the Chicho stuff, and I went, damn it. Like, I had this gut feeling that this could derail everything. And in retrospect, it kind of did, right? And obviously that's nothing that you could control, or new ownership, Dave Blitzer, Scott Crace, Ryan Smith. Nobody was able to control the mitigating circumstances. But what was it like to build that team that last year, for a moment in time, certainly the most entertaining soccer we've seen here, and had a chance to be really, really special if things just would have kind of stayed clean?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a really kind of complex set of emotions, because on the one hand, it's rewarding to look at it and say, yeah, like look at the decisions we made, and while I was there, I think we were able to. You don't get every decision right. There's there's no chance.
Of course.
But I think we were able to, to hit for a really good average and put ourselves in a position where, we got a few major decisions right, and it felt like it was starting to snowball. And then, to your point, especially at the beginning of last year, it was looking really good. But there's the flip side of that, which was, but I didn't get to be there for a part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there for part of it. It's not that I didn't get to experience any of it, but I didn't get to be there for a part of it. And that was, that it's kind of hard, but it's also sports. I mean, that's the way it is. It's fine. So yeah, it was complex, but it was, I'm proud of what we did while I was there, and I don't have too many regrets. I don't have, I'm not bitter about it. I had great experiences. I had a lot of good times, and that chapter is basically over.
Do you have any regrets about the Chicho stuff? Because the interesting part of it is there was some baggage there, right? I mean, in fairness, there was some baggage there. But when he was dialed in, when he was fit, when he was committed, when he was doing Chicho things, the talent is so obvious. So two-part question. Do you have any regrets about the Chicho thing? And where were you when you heard the suspension was coming? And did you feel the same way I did, like this could be a really ominous thing?
Do I have any regrets? Well, I'll answer the other question first because that one's a little more straightforward.
Okay.
I don't remember where I was. It's how sports are, like it's all fickle. And you never know what can kind of derail things. So to be completely honest, I wasn't paying close enough attention or dialed in enough to, and I still don't really know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just know kind of what has come out publicly. And, so I would be lying if I told you I knew I had a really great feeling about what was going to happen either way.
Yeah.
As for regrets, like, no, I don't have regrets. I mean, look, you say there was baggage. I don't even know what baggage you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we did background checks, when like he was fine. Like you talked to the LAFC guys, like they adored him.
Mm.
There weren't locker room issues. There weren't behavioral issues. Like that wasn't something that came up really at all. You had conversations with him. He was engaged. Yeah, he's a personality.
Sure.
And a lot of guys are. And respectfully, like that's where the league is headed. Like as you get better, you deal with bigger personalities.
Yep.
Like that's the nature of sports. When you don't have the top guys, you also don't have the top egos, and you don't have the top, personalities. So yeah, no, I don't have regrets. I mean, you're never going to get everything right. And but I look back on it and I think we checked as many boxes as we could.
All right, before I set you loose, we'll end on this. And there's a lot of meat on this bone we haven't even touched for sure. They elected to kind of break it down brick by brick. And I'm sure they have their reasons. I think Andres was proof of concept. So you go get your check. I get it. But, Chicho, Matt Crooks, Ando, like the majority of the best attacking players were let go. And the majority of the money was not reinvested in talent. Now, we don't need to get into MLS as a single entity to educate our listeners as to what that means. So it's not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
But they elected to break it down and get rid of most of the attacking players. And in my estimation, did not do a good enough job, at least to this point, at bringing in reinforcements. We'll see what these new two players are able to bring, but they're 2 points below the line with 8 matches to play, and it's going to be tough for them even to make the playoffs. So, last thing, what do you make of where the club finds itself now?
It'd be hard to say, oh, you got to feel awesome when you're below the line late in the season. I mean, that's always a hard place that we've been there. I know how that feels, and you don't feel good about it. Kind of to your bigger question, yeah, I think, and again, I'm not there. I don't know all the reasons for the decisions that were made. I can speculate just like anybody else can, but if I've learned one thing when you work in a front office is from the outside, you have 10% of the information if you're lucky.
If that, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to pretend to have information and be able to say definitively, oh, this was the wrong thing to do or this was the right thing to do. The Andres one, that makes a lot of sense, and it is proof of concept. And if you can, 4x your investment in 18 months, it is proof of concept, and it allows you to go back and say, see, this is how we can make money. That was the whole idea of signing Andres, was to invest when he, before he broke out. And then, and I think Chicho is a huge part of that return, because, a young guy like Andres who's dynamic has to have somebody to teach him how to be a pro on the field, and somebody to be demanding of him on the field. And on top of that, somebody to finish the chances that he's going to create. And so I think that was, to me, those are the things that really kind of became difficult to replace. And yeah, I guess, they haven't been replaced. I think all of those individual situations, you in a vacuum, they probably make some sense. But when you look at them on the whole, it's tough, because you need to then reinvest, and you need to, Diego's been unbelievable, right? Diego's great. And you kind of knew when I was there, we signed Diego. You could tell he had something different about him. Do you know he's going to make it? No, but you knew there was something about him. So he's flourished. But in this league, you have to keep investing, and you have to keep the one thing I'll say is, even the top teams across the board, almost, it's still a league where it's hard to hold on to your best players. They move around the league, they move to Europe. To be really successful year in and year out just requires you to be really disciplined in your decision-making process.
Yep.
And, I think for any number of reasons, those things can be challenging. I think, it always starts at the top. It starts with ownership, and it starts with, investment, and then the structure underneath that. And I'm not saying any individual part of that or collectively it isn't there. I don't know. I'm not in the building.
Yeah.
And obviously it's new ownership. I don't even know the new owners.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a totally different place than when I left it.
Yep. There's no doubt. Look, there's a lot more we could do, and we'll do it soon. So thanks for the time, man. Be good. We'll chat soon.
Thank
okay?
you.
Elliot Fall, former RSL general manager. We'll bring in Ryan from the Dish Pros. Give him a call at 801-424-DISH. A bunch of money and make the switch today. What's going on, Ryan?
This is the best opportunity you've ever seen to switch a dish right now. And the offer that we have, listen, you get everything. You want to watch college, you want to watch pro, you want to have a DVR that automatically records everything. You want to pay less? Well, guys, this is what Dish has right now. You get this, they've got the 2-year promotion still, which is fantastic because you get credits for 2 years. The price is guaranteed to change. Guys, I'll tell you right now, if you got cable or DirecTV, it's minimum $30 a month less for the next 2 years. But, a lot of times we see it $60, $80, $90 a month less than what you're currently paying. You just got to call us. But I'm going to throw a little extra on top. How about 3 months of service for free? So now we're going to talk about how you're going to save thousands quickly just by a simple phone call. Plus, we're going to throw in the multi-sports pack, which includes my favorite football channel of all. You get the NFL Red Zone free for the next 6 months, so you're dialed in there. We'll get you set up with that, plus throw in Showtime and Paramount Plus. And yes, I mentioned Paramount Plus because the Hopper system is complete seamlessly integrated with all the streaming services. They're like channels. You want to watch Netflix? It's like a channel. You want to watch the NFL Sunday Ticket through YouTube? That's like a channel built in. One remote runs everything, and it's simple and simplistic and easy to use. Plus, we'll throw in dinner at JCW's if you call and get set up. Remember, too, we're like the internet professionals right now. I have a half a dozen internet providers at my fingertips. This will completely save you so much time. Instead of getting on the phone and calling XYZ internet companies all the way down the line to find out if they even offer service or if what the price would be, just call us. We'll lay out everybody who has service available at your address and lower your bill. And guys, there's a lot of stuff at 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a month. So if you're spending 60, 80, 100 bucks a month for internet, even if you have fiber and you're like, I'm not switching from fiber, I've got fiber, there's a really good possibility in your neighborhood is deregulated, which means you just can pay a different provider to use the same fiber, and it's $30 a month cheaper. Super easy. Call us today. Let us upgrade you, get you set up with the best TV system, best internet services out there, and save you money. Lots of money, thousands. You just got to call 424-DISH, 801-424-3474.
All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program is next right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get a drive at 5 time, Monday afternoon style. I misbehaved on the clock today, so we are late to start the hour. It's 16 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Going to do some college football coming up in a couple of minutes with the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley. Our best of show today will be an hour-long conversation with Dr. Chris Hill. Rolled by earlier in studio as we are less than 2 weeks away from game day for the Utes, game day for BYU, game day for Utah State as well, at least for the portion of players that have earned their number in Logan. It's Monday of game week in college football. Week 0 gets rolling this weekend. Coming up on Saturday, it will be Iowa State and K-State, a big-time Big 12 clash, 2 top 25 teams. In Dublin, Ireland, our guy Chris Comrani will be live on site for that. Week 3 of the NFL wrapped up. Well, we'll wrap up tonight with some Monday Night Football coming up in just a few minutes. It's the Bengals and the Commanders. See if we get a little Joe Burrow sighting. See if he plays. He played during week 2, so we'll see how that goes. I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. Shout out our guy Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City. Right now, you get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, local Salt Lake company, and they're hooking you up. And the nice thing about this offer is if you feel like you want to replace your windows now, you can take advantage of their fall football special where you save $2,500 when you buy 10 windows or more. But if you're anticipating maybe buying or selling a home in the coming weeks or months, if you get on their schedule, you lock in the savings. That's the nice thing about this. Great warranties, lifetime warranties. They build everything in-house, so you cut out the middleman. You save money anyway. But their special right now is you get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. So give them a call, Advanced Window Products at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. 801-850-9100 or online at advancedwindows.com. All right, we'll catch a break. We're going to bring in Riles coming up on the other side. Voice of the Utes. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the show, wrapping it up for a Monday edition. Good to be back on air after a little time off. Great time of year, a little bit of everything going on. Of course, high-speed headed college football. Monday Night Football tonight is the Bengals and the Commanders. And then week 0 will start on Saturday with the big game over in Dublin between Iowa State and K-State. So a lot of football on the show, a lot of college football as we move most of our coverage over to that space in the coming weeks and months. Porter, I have a confession to make. You ready for it?
I am open to confessions.
So I will disappoint some of my friends in the market. I will disappoint some of my golf fan friends. Over the weekend in Indianapolis, I had the opportunity to attend a live golf event.
And you broke a club there, too.
I did not break a club. This is actually good news. We are in essentially late August, and I've not broken a golf club this year.
Huh, that's pretty good.
Strong
clubs.
The over-under, I did not say I have not thrown. And certainly over the weekend, there may have been a couple of chucks because I thought I was going low, and I very much did not. But no breaks. Over-under was set at 1.5. I'm going to give myself one club break this year, but I have not broken a club. But I'm a PGA Tour guy. But the CEO of Live Golf is a guy named Scott O'Neill. Scott is a member of the LDS Church. My family knows him. He worked at Madison Square Garden. And we reached out because we happened to be in Indianapolis and said, hey, can you help us out? And he hooked us up with, the best access. So I'm not a live golf guy, never will be, but saw Brooks Koepka, saw Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm. They've got some really good players. And I am one that is very rarely starstruck by celebrities. It does not happen very often. Do you ever get starstruck by any celebrity? Has there ever been a time where you saw somebody and you're like, oh, my gosh, that is that person?
Jordan is one that, puts off a little bit of an aura, right? I was around him enough that it kind of faded off because he was kind of mean to people I saw around. But not really outside of that, especially not athletes. But when it comes to, maybe a musician, right? I had the chance to say one sentence to Willie Nelson, and that was one of the standouts of my entire life. So yeah, maybe that. If I were able to meet a Johnny Cash, that would have been one of those moments. But maybe there's something to that as well. Folks that aren't here anymore.
So we were sitting in, they call it the hole 54 tent. It's the final hole of the tournament, and you're there in the tent, and it's a bunch of VIPs. And we're sitting there watching the golf, and I turn around, I look over my shoulder, and I turn to my son, and I say, I think that's Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
Who's one of my favorite hip-hop artists of all time, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. She was with the Fugees. And I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. Now, as the story goes, Lauryn Hill left the music business because she didn't like being famous. Got a little trouble with some taxes. Our girl had to spend a little time in the pen. Life goes on. But I'd say to Connor, I'm like, you've got to go around the other side and look behind me to make sure that's her. And if it is, you got to take a picture. Because she was literally standing 3 feet over my left shoulder. So Connor walks down and sees that it's her. It is Lauryn Hill. Takes a picture. And the picture I have honestly looks like we took it together. But I did not have it inside of me to ask her to take a picture or say hello.
Damn.
It was maybe the first time in a long time that I was legitimately starstruck that Lauryn Hill, at a golf tournament, of all people, Lauryn Hill is standing there, and I didn't know what to do. I stopped in my tracks.
That actually is a good one. And it's funny I mentioned Michael because there's something about 90s pop culture where there's a little mystique there. Mm-hmm. It's not the access you get. For me, it wouldn't starstruck me to see LeBron. Because number one, we've seen him in person a bunch covering the Jazz, but also because we know him. We see everything he does. We see every Instagram thing. We see all of it. Chris Paul, Russell, all these guys we know, kind of. There's a mystique about the Michael Jordans. Obviously, Tupac, guys that are not here anymore. And Lauryn Hill along those lines, someone who's had some issues with the law, she's got a little bit of that mystique, I think. So I'm actually with you on that one. That one would give me a little starstruck too.
Yeah, such a talent. And at a golf tournament of all things. And the wildest part is she was close enough that I could hear what she was saying. I don't know if she plays, but she knows golf.
Oh, interesting.
She was talking about
if she's at that event, she probably plays a little or is a
I
fan.
assume they like paid her or something, but she was like, okay, John Rahm, he's like 175 yards out. This must be like a pitching wedge for him. I'm like, wait, Lauryn Hill is like breaking down the game of golf. It was pretty wild. So I did commit a cardinal sin for my friends that love the PGA Tour. I actually went to a live golf event over the weekend. It's quite the atmosphere. A lot of loud music, a lot of people having a good time. They have a party hole, as they call it. So, yeah, had that opportunity over the weekend. All right, let's get out of here for a Monday afternoon. Fun show today. Good to be back on air. Thank you guys for making us a part of your day today. Porter, what comes our way on a Tuesday edition of the show?
On a Tuesday edition of the show, we'll check in with our guy Dave Fox as we do each and every week on the program. Scott Mitchell on the program tomorrow. We'll talk a little NFL with Sean Syed of Sumer Sports. A little RSL action on the show tomorrow, and we'll hear from Coach Witt after practice today, so we'll have some sound to play for
There
you
you
too.
go. Week 3 of Camp Kyle rolls on. Only one more week after this, and then it's time for college football, Utah, BYU and Utah State. Special thank you today, Dr. Chris Hill, Bill Riley, and Elliot Fall. For any of the sound you missed from the show today, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store or the Google Play Store for free. And then finally, for what we do in our space every day for 4 hours in the afternoon, check out the podcast page. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. For Porter, I'm Spence saying good night. Enjoy your Monday evening. We'll talk to you on a Tuesday edition of The Drive. As always, you can find it right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network.